Call the meeting to order. Sorry we're running 5 minutes late. Matt, will you lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Matt. Will the clerk call the roll?
Mayor Johnston.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Wyrick.
Here.
Councilmember Blatz.
Here.
Councilmember Francina. Here. Councilmember Haney.
Here.
Okay, we have a quorum. Let's do the agenda review. I have 3 items, and I think Mayor Pro Tem Wyrick has one that he wants to pull from the consent calendar. I would like to move number 5, the referendum issue, up to the front of the agenda instead of 2. And I would recommend that we continue the public hearing to our next regular meeting, to giving the council a chance to absorb everything we got in the workshop this evening. And I would say let's move number 6, which is that cultural heritage RFP thing up. That should be a quick item, so those interested in that won't have to sit through all the rest of it. So those, with those 3 changes.
I'll second.
And you wanted to pull something?
I'm going to pull K from consent
Okay, and
to discuss.
Okay, and K is what?
Investment policy.
Okay, good, okay. Okay, if there's no objection, so ordered. Okay, thank you.
Can we just clarify for the public then?
Sure.
And make sure I understood correctly? Referendum item number 5 is going to be number 1. So all the cars that say number 1 or number 5 are now number 1?
Well, it's not number 2. Number 1 is the consent agenda.
5 will
Oh,
be
okay,
2.
number 2. Number 5 equals 2, right?
Right.
And number
2 is
6,
continued to the next meeting.
the real 2.
The real 2, yeah, okay, yeah, right. The authentic 2, yeah.
Okay. And then number 6 is going to follow
Be 3.
number 2.
6 will be 3.
6 equals 3.
I'd suggest for ease of use, the card numbers could match the numbers on the agenda, just take them in order.
Right, okay, thank you.
you.
I agree, man.
Okay.
So those who are here for items number 5 and 6, those will be taken up early. And those who are here for the budget hearing, if that's the only thing that interests you, I recommend you take the opportunity to exit, because we're not going to deal with that tonight. We're going to take another 2 weeks to absorb everything that we heard this evening. Okay? So let's start, let's see, what's our next item, or is the presentations. We have a proclamation, and former Mayor Blatz, as I refer to as the once and future Mayor Blatz, will do the presentation for us.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mayor. One of the real honors and pleasures that I had the opportunity to do when I was mayor was to make presentations to various organizations and people in the community that we wanted to significantly bring attention to. And tonight, we're bringing attention to the Lavender Festival. And I think we have some people here that are involved in it, so thank you for being here. This is particularly nice for me, because one of the things about the Lavender Festival, besides getting lavender and
Thank you.
and a pen,
I have last year's spray in my office.
Thank you.
It's still there and it still smells good.
Oh,
I will add this to last year's. Thank you. Thank you.
just as a little sideline as to the effects of lavender, there was a judge in Santa Barbara in the Family Law Department that I used to appear in front of quite frequently, and she had made sachets full of lavender. And before a contentious custody and visitation hearing, she would always hand the sachets to the parties and to the 2 attorneys and send us out in the hallway to sniff on it for a while before we started the hearing.
Breathe deeply.
And it worked, I think. Not all the time, not all the time.
Everybody calm?
No, but it was, you got to say that it has some medicinal purpose.
Benefits, yeah.
So as I was saying, it's a real pleasure for me that Mayor Johnson asked me to do this presentation for 2 reasons. One is that everybody knows the Lavender Festival that's been in Ojai for a while and knows it's in Libby Park. And this year it's going to be on the It's in its 14th year, and it's going to be on the 24th. But a lot of people don't realize the proceeds from that go to an education fund, and this year there's 2 individuals that actually receive scholarship money of $2,500 each. And those individuals are Ojai Zway and Sarah Scott. Each will be awarded $2,500 scholarships. But more importantly than that, the scholarship is named after one of Ojai's and my favorite people, David Mason. And as anybody that's been around Ojai at all knows, David is a historian and really a true treasure of Ojai. He's always been one of my favorite people, and he knows, as a local historian, the comments I have heard, he's a beloved community member, which he is, and as a longtime florist, he knows the things or two about lavender. David also understands the significance of agriculture in our local economy and the importance of supporting tomorrow's farmers and growers. And I think that it's very befitting that the scholarship be in David's name, or the education fund be in David's name. That's really nice. And also that the festival is all staffed by volunteers, including Teen Challenge and other local volunteers. So that's very important to our community as well. So I have a proclamation that I'd like to read for you, and it states, City of Ojai, whereas Ojai's Mediterranean climate makes it an ideal place to grow lavender, and whereas lavender has many uses including medical, culinary, and artistic, and whereas the Ojai Lavender Festival is in its 14th year of bringing thousands of people to the Ojai Valley to learn about the wonders of lavender, and whereas the Lavender Festival provides fun activities for the whole family, live music and speakers who provide both knowledge and entertainment for our visitors, and whereas the Lavender Festival is held each year in June in Libby Park, and for 2017 will be held on June 24, 2017. Therefore, it is resolved that me, on behalf of our mayor, Johnny J. Johnston, the mayor of the City of Ojai, and on behalf of the City Council, hereby proclaim the month of June 2017 as Lavender Month, and in doing so urge all citizens to celebrate and learn about the many uses of lavender. And this is dated the 13th day of June 2017. It's been signed by our Deputy City Clerk as well as Mayor Johnson, and I would like you to come forward. Thank you very much. And if you'd like to say a few words, feel free to.
Thank you so much for your support of the Ojai Valley Lavender Festival for this year, proclaiming June 2017 Lavender Month. We welcome each of you to attending this meeting tonight to stop by Libby Park on the 24th, and you'll have an enjoyable time. We are having over 100 vendors that'll be there selling everything from apparel to jewelry to lavender, and then also a lot of the restaurants are coming along and helping us out with lavender ice cream, lavender pasta, lavender lemonade, everything that you can think of. So please stop down and support us on that side of the house. We also have the Soil Sisters that'll be coming there. They'll be actually providing a speech. They are actually farmers and the goat herders and everything else, so they'll be there at one of our presentations. We also have live music there too. In order to reduce the traffic downtown Ojai, we've actually, the last 2 years, have went to one of the churches on Church Road at 441, and we've had over 120 vehicles that did not come downtown last year for our festival, and we're hoping we can do at least that many or even more for that. So, again, our sincere thanks for supporting the Ojai Valley Lavender Festival, and thank you so much. Have a great day and a great evening. Thank you all.
Right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you not only for the scholarships, but for the commemorating and memorializing one of our leading citizens. If you don't know David Mason, you should. He is truly a treasure of the town. And thank you, Paul, for doing that. Okay, we are now at the public communications, and I have a few cards here. Well, Ron Solorzano, our librarian. How'd I do with your last name this time, Ron? Close? Better every time. Yeah, okay, I'll keep practicing, thank you.
Don't say anything.
All right. All right. Thank you, all members of council. My name is Ron Solorzano, and I am the regional librarian for the Ojai Valley. There are two big things I want to talk with you all about today. The first relates to our recent community conversations. You may remember that back in April, our library hosted a series of events where we invited locals to share their aspirations for the Ojai community. We did this to learn more about the needs and wants of the people of Ojai and to better understand the library's potential role in meeting those needs. We held conversations in downtown Ojai, Miners Oaks, and Oakview, and we spent the month of May putting our findings together into a report for the purpose of sharing what we learned with our partners and other stakeholders in the community. If you or others that you know are interested in learning more about our findings, please feel free to contact me for more information. We have copies of the report that we can make available. The second thing that I want to bring up is summer reading. This year, our theme for summer reading is Reading by Design. And in addition to encouraging kids to keep reading throughout the summer to prevent the summer slide, which is the loss of academic skill and knowledge that happens over the course of summer break, the library is also going to be putting on a series of events and activities as part of our Summer of STEAM. Throughout June, July, and August, these activities will focus on concepts relating to science, technology, engineering, art, and math, helping kids to learn while building, designing, coding, and more. In addition to these special events, we're also holding our usual summer reading contests for both children and adults, and you can contact the library or visit our website at www.vencolibrary.org for more information on both of these. Of course, the Ojai Library continues to offer great programming for adults as well. We continue to host our weekly knitting clubs on Monday evenings and the Writers' Workshop on Thursday evenings. Also, the Shakespeare Salon has returned to the library, meets on the first and third Mondays of the month. And the new Ojai Poetry Series is taking place on the third Tuesdays of the month, both of these in our new meeting room out behind the library. You can learn more about these events along with some upcoming author talks that we've scheduled. Same website, www.vencolibrary.org/Ojai. That's all I have for now, but as always, please don't hesitate to contact me or come by the library if you have any questions. We look forward to continuing to serve the community through the summer months and beyond. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Peggy Lucera?
Hi, I just wanted to make a general comment about a piece that was in the Ventura County Star. This may sound like it's about item 5, now item 1, but it's really a general comment that a piece was done, it was an op-ed piece on May 24th that reviewed the basic facts of the OTID and mentioned some of the positions of the council members. And the editor stated their opinion, which was that we should be giving tourism its due, and expressed disappointment in two members of the council, Mayor Johnston and Souza Francina, stating that, you know, they had supported these candidates in the last election, and they were disappointed that apparently you weren't appreciative enough of tourism or some such thing. And I made a comment to the Ventura County Star in the online version, noting that the editor at the time that the endorsement was made of Mayor Johnston and Souza Francina, John Moore, was a 50-year veteran reporter. He began reporting when he was 15 years old, that he had been editor of the Ventura County Star since 1998. He knew the community very well, and that the editor who expressed disappointment had been there for 6 weeks, and I thought that it was unfair that they stated the opinion in the way that they did. I looked up the piece tonight because I wanted to cite it explicitly, and that editorial comment has been removed. My comment has been removed. The last 2 paragraphs of the piece have been removed. And I wanted to say that on the record because somebody may have a hard copy of the paper and it may come back and be expressed. And I just wanted to be noted that the editor has come to a place of wisdom and removed those paragraphs. Thank you.
Thank you for your expose.
Yes, right. I suppose I'll be disappointing a whole lot more people in the future, so, but thanks for the effort. Okay, is Pat McPherson here? I thought, Steve, was he going to come down and?
I believe he was going to come tonight. I don't
Okay,
see
I
Mr.
don't have a
McPherson out
card.
there.
Okay, I didn't want to miss it. Well, I'll take an opportunity for another clarification from the newspaper. I got a call over the weekend concerning the acquisition of the water company by Casitas. Some of you may have read that. I was notified by an acquaintance of mine this morning who said the rumor's out that you didn't support Flow and you don't support the acquisition of the water company. So as a clarification for that newspaper, which I subscribe to, is that I told them that I thought it was overdue. It was to the great benefit of this community. In the long run, everybody's a winner. However, I had received a few complaints from some of the older members of the community who live on large properties where the benefits assessment is hitting them with a $2,000. Not a lot of people in that demographic, but this one lady was going to get a $2,000 tax assessment because she lives alone on a very large property and isn't using much water to conserve, and therefore is not going to get repaid, by the benefits we'll all receive. She, in the long run, will. Anyway, I guess as a political statement, I probably should not have said that to a freelance news reporter, but I see myself less as a politician and more as a public educator, and so I was very thorough in explaining how the thing would work. It would benefit most of us, but not all of us, just in case she had heard that. Anyway, that's how rumors get started in Ojai, so that's somebody else I think I've disappointed this week. Thank you. Okay, we are now to our consent agenda, right? And before we approve that, you would like to pull
I'd like to
one?
pull item K, which is the
Okay.
investment policy.
Okay, do I have a motion for the balance of the?
So moved.
Okay, moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. If no objection, so ordered. Okay.
The reason I pulled is that there's one item that caught my eye, page 5 of 13. I talked to Mr. Livingston about this. He agreed it probably needs a further look, and that's the maximum percentage of negotiable certificates of deposit set at 10%, while money market was at 15%. That's not really the trend. The trend is to have a little higher percentage cap for negotiable certificates of deposit. The risk differential is almost the same with money market funds, but the rate of return is like a couple 100% difference. And so he thought it was appropriate to maybe defer approval of this until maybe we have a little more discussion on what those caps should be.
Okay, that's,
So I'm going to vote a motion to continue the item.
I'll second that.
Let's continue, we can talk. Okay?
Is there a sense of urgency on this, or is this?
We do need to approve the investment policy before June 30th, because without that, it takes away the ability for me to invest money on behalf of the city. We can approve the investment policy, and we can make amendments at any time. So what I would suggest is that you could either approve the policy, and with the provision that we want to increase the limits on there, because it doesn't have any real impact us on it right now, other than it opens up the possibilities for us to do things. It just opens up an avenue for us more. But what I would suggest is that we actually do approve the investment policy, and then we could come back with an amendment to it shortly, anytime, or you could pass it with a provision that we will increase that limit. It's not that we have any funds invested in that area right now.
What is the problem with just continuing it to the 27th of
Yeah.
June, and we can then approve or give you whatever authority you need at that point?
Well, it could go to the 27th, there's no problem with that at all, but but the question that I have though is, so are we looking to move it forward so we can change that item and bring it back, or
Yes.
that's the issue? So you don't want to have a discussion on that, you want to just, so that's my question. If
Move
you
it
want to
to
have a
the-
discussion on it,
Why not?
Move it to the 27th.
Yeah, okay, we'll move it to the 27th, and we'll be able to
Understood.
clear up whatever it is. I know that Bill Miley couldn't be here this evening. He sent a note to us saying that the backside of every page had been missing. I guess that got corrected, but if there's...
That got corrected yesterday.
Yeah, so if there's no urgency, we'll take care of it on the 27th.
so there's no direction from council to modify that at this point in time, then?
Well, we're just going to continue.
We'll just continue it and then take it up as a discussion item on the 27th?
Correct.
Okay.
Okay, fine, thank you.
Just want to make sure I got the right direction here.
Yeah, okay, is there any further discussion on that?
Understood, we'll bring it back.
I'll try to get with the city treasurer
If
about
there's no
this as
objection,
well.
the matter will be taken up at the next regular meeting. Okay, thank you. Okay, now we are taking up the item number 5, the first one, and is the city clerk here, Cynthia Burrell?
First of all, I want to thank the Mayor Johnson. As an elected city clerk and the election official, I appreciate the opportunity to present this report. As you know, on March 28th, the City Council adopted Resolution 1707, approving the OTID extension, and on April 27th, a referendum petition was filed with the clerk, and on May 23rd, 2017, I certified that to the council, and they received and filed a certification and voted unanimously to place this item on tonight's agenda. Under Election Code 9241, you have two choices. You have to repeal the Resolution 1707 in full, or you submit the resolution to the voters by ballot. If you'd like me to read that section, I'd be happy to.
Anyone?
Okay. If you repeal the resolution, then you would just, attachment A in your packet, adopt that resolution, it would make the repeal. If you submit it to the voters, you need to either do that at the next general election, consolidated in November, I think it's November 6, 2018, or call a special election, not less than 88 days from today. The earliest that could be is September 9th, 2017. If you choose to have a special election, you're going to need to adopt 3 more resolutions addressing those. And let's see, what else is there here? The fiscal impact, if you call a special election, that county has given me an estimate of approximately $41,000. If you put it on the next general municipal, which is in November of 2018, I estimate that would be $9,000 to $10,000. The cost of the last election in November 2016 was $8,606. So I would think that would go up some. It may even be more. I don't know. That's my estimate. I think that's it. If
Okay.
you have any questions, I'll be happy to.
Do we have any questions?
And
of
if I
this?
don't know it, I'm sure the city attorney does.
Please stick around in case we do, though.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Cindy. Okay, I have a request, Representative from OTID. Is Scott Iker here something? Hi, Scott, come on up.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Council, City Manager. On June 7th, the OVB Advisory Committee met, and a majority of the hotels voted to ask you to accept the referendum rescinding the vote to extend the OTID. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Scott. I have cards. Let's see, where are we here?
As a point of order,
Yep, Paul?
if the petitioning entity has requested that we not move forward, and has withdrawn their request for the OTID.
There's
We
no
need-
legal import at this point. It's too late for them to control it.
Okay,
Because it was adopted by the council. So once that adoption occurred by the council, they lost the power to pull it back. They would have the power, if sent to the voters and approved by the voters, to ask that it be dissolved once a year at the annual protest point. But at this point, their request, while relevant to your consideration tonight, doesn't have legal import. The legal import would be your action tonight,
well-
to either repeal or put on the ballot.
okay, so, but this is not a public hearing, correct? It's a discussion item? Where's the
okay,
public hearing?
So we have to
But
take-
you are required to take public comment, if any, before you take action, although it is a discussion item, not a public hearing.
What's interesting is I think we might be willing to take action here. We'll hear from a lot of people, and then,
Well, there's not a lot of cards, but,
well, let's just hear from everybody then.
well, prior to that, I'd like to make a motion.
Well, I think we first.
I
we
don't
should
know,
hear
that was my
Yeah,
point. I don't
okay.
think we can make a motion, but
Yeah.
I see no reason to continue with the I mean, people can give us comment, but if the people that were asking for the OTID to be put in place, and now they're withdrawing it, we're certainly not going to force it on them.
Okay. I have several cards here, and my assumption is that possibly with that announcement in your comments, Paul, that some of them may not wish to take their 3 minutes up, but everybody by law has an opportunity to say whatever they would like to say at this point, I believe. So I have Mary Dunn. Would you like to come forward? And I have a Jerry Dunn on deck. And I'll try to remember the on-deck thing to keep us moving.
Hello to our disappointing mayor and the city council. I'm not going to read my remarks because it seems a waste of your time and mine, but I have faith that after hearing the groundswell and that recent announcement, all of you on the city council will have the wisdom to end the OTID. And I'm pleased to hear the news, and I hope you follow.
Okay, thank you, Mary. Okay, Jerry Dunn with Peggy Lucero on deck.
What she said.
I'm with the hoteliers and the Duns.
Okay. Maritza Luz Vega.
I also agree, and I also just still want to put in a plug that whatever we can do to support families and generations to stay here and find creative ways to support the hotels to thrive, as well as our businesses and community members, is my vote.
Okay, thank you. Michael Haley and Megan Berquist on deck.
My comment, I'm going to make a different comment than I was planning on making, and I'm glad to hear that they've agreed to withdraw this. But the issue of tourism for Ojai is not going to go away. And I think that, you know, even without the OTID, even having short-term rentals being illegal, this is going to continue. This is something new for Ojai. And there's still a lot of marketing and advertising going on for Ojai. And I don't think that, it's a problem of success. Ojai is having a problem of success, and we have never, as a community, had to deal with it quite like this as before. And visitors are going to continue to come, tourism is going to continue to grow, and there are going to continue to be problems out of it. And I think one of the most important lessons that we could get out of this is the way that this whole thing was handled, because the whole thing was not handled well. It should have been a much more transparent public process. I remember from our last election, candidates talking about we've got to be more transparent and that kind of thing, and that just didn't happen with this. And tourism is a big major force in the world right now. It's growing everywhere, not just in Ojai. And so it's getting bigger and busier here, and all the stakeholders have to get involved. We have to stop and really think about what we're doing and plan our future. And when I say it's a problem of success, it's because, in my perception, and I've only lived here a year and a half, but everything just happens for Ojai. You know, people haven't had to worry about it too much. You know, people show up. People show up at the wine festival, 4,000 people. It's wonderful. But it's getting to be too much. It's getting to be, how do we handle it? And we've never really had to come to grips with that before. So what I'm saying is that I think that in the future, when the next issue comes along, because it's going to come along, we've got to get all the stakeholders involved, and we've got to talk to each other. And what happened is that people got pitted against each other because they're not used to fighting each other. They're used to fighting somebody outside Ojai. You know, it's usually some developer or some gravel truck or some highway from Caltrans. You can fight the other guy. But here, we ended up fighting each other. And so we've got to learn how to talk to each other. It's like a marriage. Instead of, you know, just fighting and screaming, we've got to talk. And to do that, you've got to get the chamber involved, but you've got to get other stakeholders involved. You know, the people who might not be so happy about all the tourism and all the various people. So I hope that we can create a process where we do that so that there's better communication and a mutual, you know, a consensus agreement about how we should move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Megan Berquist? Karen Boson on deck? Okay. Go.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I just want to say that over the past few months, I have
You know,
been
speak into the...
privileged enough to speak with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people.
You're fading again.
Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people.
Very good.
Am I okay?
Yeah.
Okay. And farmers markets and letters and postcards and so many people just want balance. They want balance, and they want Ojai to feel like Ojai and have some form of balance and not have us be tipping over the edge into some other place that's not Ojai. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Karen, with Tom Francis on deck.
Okay. Well, Mayor Johnston and members of City Council, I'm Karen Bosson. I live in the East End, but for many years I was worked very closely with the City of Ojai. I was the facilitator of the Ojai Valley Youth Master Plan 20 years ago. And I would like to tell you a story, and this story is set in the future. It's the year 2022. And Ojai residents Tom Jones and his wife Maria Garcia really love living in Ojai. With their good local jobs, they can afford to rent their 3-bedroom house, and an added plus is that they no longer need a second car because the Ojai Tourism Council now runs a frequent electric trolley service. Tom works for the Ojai Farm to Table Association, NEW, and he coordinates tours and workshops for agro-tourism visitors who fill local hotel rooms throughout the week and shop at our local merchants and eat at our local restaurants. Maria works for the new Ojai Visual Arts Alliance, booking world-class artists to lead week-long workshops. Such a successful enterprise, in fact, that there's a waiting list, as many of the attendees come back again and again, giving back to our community, both with their dollars, and in this case, because these attendees love Ojai so much, they have started a service project that funds the Ojai Studio Artists Scholarship Fund. Tom and Maria's son, Marcos, is such a bicycling enthusiast from his internship with the Ojai Bicycling Association that he has decided to major in urban planning in college. All of these outcomes have been made possible by a pivotal decision that the Ojai City Council made in 2017. At that point, the council decided to take leadership in shaping how tourism would continue to impact Ojai. They asked the question, should we create a real vision, plan, and structure to guide tourism? And they answered that question in the affirmative. They came together along with the chamber, lodging facilities, and a task force composed of representatives from different community stakeholders, businesses, residents, nonprofits, and experts. And they hashed out principles that uphold, protect, and enhance what the community loves about Ojai. They built in goals such as addressing traffic, water, and air pollution, overcrowding on weekends, short-term rentals. They looked at those, and they identified the kind of tourism that maximally benefits and minimally impacts the common good. The task force was not easy to start, and the Council of 2022 has heard some stories about how their predecessors had to overcome some hard feelings and divisions, but it was worth it. The city is now a model for managing its tourism. The community feels involved and proud, and the economy and the environment are experiencing the benefits. Thank you, Council of 2017. And I'd like to leave you with two questions. Who is going to provide the leadership to make this scenario happen? And where will the money come from? Because OTID is a lot of money that can leverage a lot of positive change if we coordinate ourselves.
Thank you. Tom Francis.
Good evening, Mayor Johnson and Council. Thank you all for your service. I appreciate you all and staff. Anyway, I just wanted to add on that I agree with Mary Dunn and Megan Bergquist as far as their comments. And the only other thing I have to say is that out of all the people that I spoke to when working on this issue as a volunteer, overwhelmingly what I heard was that we want to be a town first, the town of Ojai first and foremost, and then all these other great things that we can be second. And I think the reason this referendum went down is because you guys didn't hear that. You guys didn't hear that. And so, anyway, I hope that you guys can hear the community, like figure out a way to be tuned in just a little bit better to the community sentiment in the future. I think it'll go a long way. And I appreciate you all. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
He's a gracious guy.
Okay. That's all the cards I have, and Randy, you had a...
Well, you know what? I've put a lot of time and thought into this, too. In fact, I responded to over 120-some letters and cards. So I think all of you know how I feel about this community. So let me read what my thoughts are, because I put a lot of thought into this. First and foremost, I want to thank the citizens of Ojai for participating so vigorously in our local democracy. Regardless of how we come down on various issues, I'm sure I speak for all of the members of the City Council when I say this: your care and concern for the welfare of our community is what makes us strong, resilient, and successful. The current matter that was before us, the OTED, well, we heard the results of that. It's done. So we're not going to cling to any of that anymore. It's done. I would like to sincerely encourage everyone involved to not let your activism end here. Sometimes we get so caught up in winning and losing that we forget what it is we're actually fighting for. No matter what side of the issue we're on, we can't lose sight of the fact that everyone wants Ojai to be the best that it can be. Well, that means things like cleaner air and less traffic and greater water conservation. I believe it also means that we have to and we must strive to coexist. Without courtesy, without respect for each other's opinions and personal rights, we aren't connecting with the very soul of Ojai, and that soul is its people. I have some challenges that lay ahead of us, which is to create more unity and a stronger sense of cooperation in our town, especially between the businesses and the residential communities. To that end, I've got 3 specific recommendations, and I think you're going to hear them, and I think you're going to agree with them that we have to do these. Let's create events that bring these two groups together. Let's stop dividing this community. When we lessen our reliance on tourist dollars, we'll need ways to buy locally. For example, and I've talked about this for a number of times with a number of people in this community, and other communities do it. We just need to figure out how to. And let's create an Ojai night. Let's take Matilaha, the back of the arcade. Let's bring in the local artists, the shopkeepers, let them sell their wares at a discount or reduced price to the citizens of this community amid music and food and fun and good cheer. But let's get together.
Okay, Randy.
No, I'm not done.
You may not be done, but the topic is...
That's okay.
It's the referendum.
That's right, and we're close to it. The other thing that we would like to do, Mayor, is develop an economic impact commission made up of business people, local residents who may envision the future together.
Do we have a motion?
Yes, you will, as soon as I'm done. Thank you.
Okay, all
I
right.
appreciate it, and I'm almost done.
Okay, good.
You know what, I really don't appreciate you interrupting me. I just want to say that.
And
Okay?
we need
I'm
to...
just telling you that.
Yeah, I'm quite
Okay?
sure I've disappointed a lot of people
Great.
this week. Thank you, Randy.
That's right.
Now
So I
let's-
appreciate that.
Could you finish up?
Yes, I will.
Thank you.
So the final thing I want to say to this community is, we've done a lot of projects together. We did the Libby Bowl Amphitheater. We bought back our rights from Golden State. We've remodeled our hospital. And we constructed with a community build park, playground equipment in the middle of our city. And that is just a humongous plus for our community. So none of that was easy. But everyone rolled their sleeves up and everyone committed to making this community better. Right now, we have plans for a new park over at Sarasota. Instead of thinking of ways to divide ourselves, why don't we think of ways to create an environment where we depend on one another? So, these are just a few of my ideas. And as I was going to say, and I'm sorry, Mayor, for speaking so rudely to you, I'd like to hear yours. But let's think how we can create an environment of trust, engagement, thoughtfulness, and understanding. And if we aim at discovering what we share in common, we can support and encourage each other, and we won't have to fight for the Ojai we want. We'll be living right in the heart of it.
Okay, thank you. Do I have a motion?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move that we adopt a resolution repealing Resolution 17-07, declaring the results of the majority protest proceeding and renewing the Ojai Tourism Improvement District for a period of 3 years.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Discussion?
I just have one comment that I'd like to make.
I do as well.
And I want to make sure I say this the right way, because I really am kind of disappointed that this OTID is not going to go through, or at least to a vote of the people, for one reason alone, and it is this city was going to benefit from $70,000 to $100,000 of funds to be able to create a real impact study that would be kind of the seed to really getting control of our tourism in Ojai. And I don't think that the T-bid itself was going to have that big an impact on our community. But we were going to receive some funds as the result of the motion that we approved that was going to go substantially to us really having some funds to really take a hard look at it. I think it's very important that there be a tourism commission set up or a tourism committee or something along that line. But we're going to have to, if we're going to fund it with the city funds, then we're going to have to start cutting back on areas where we might not want to cut back on. But I think it's really important that if we're going to do it, we better do it right. And I think we need to spend some money for some professional help where we can really look at all the areas of our tourism. And with that being said, as far as the OTID itself, that was a creature of the hoteliers. I thought that it was something that they were extremely interested in, that they needed. I didn't see it overburdening us, but I thought there was a lot of benefit back to the city for it, and that's why I supported it. But I'm very happy to make the motion to repeal it as well.
Okay, Mayor Pro Tem?
Couple comments. Number one, I think we should all listen to, again, what everyone says. I've heard much more frequently the concept of sustainable tourism being discussed and that concept developed, and I think we've got to do a lot more work on that concept as well. But we also need to tell the truth. And a lot of people are going around saying this council majority voted to increase sales and marketing money from the OTID. In fact, the original request came in at $345,000 to go to sales and marketing. It then was reduced to $318,750, and then this council reduced it further to $255,000. We reduced. We were listening. And we reduced the amount of money going to sales and marketing and brought and diverted that money into other types of activities to pursue the very types of goals that were discussed by many of you tonight. We listened and we adjusted. This idea that we ignored is just false. It's not true. And that we increased the money going to marketing, not true. So let's tell the truth in our discussions to begin with. The reality for me is that I see no reason to have drawn this out, which means it was either a special election or repeal. It became clear to me that the hoteliers, frankly, don't want, in their current configuration, the majority of oversight and accountability that this council was putting on the OTID that was never there before. And so they were just going to dissolve. Even if the city voters went to a special election, voted, after spending $41,000, said yes, in a year they're just going to dissolve it anyway. In its current, they didn't like the oversight. So what we're doing here is we've had basically an alignment between the people that thought this was a way to reduce tourism of the kind they don't want, and the people that don't want oversight and accountability of how they're promoting tourism, and they came together to get this result. And so I'm going to vote to repeal because I don't want to waste $41,000. If then we need to move forward on the concept of sustainable tourism. So that's where I'm at. Let's start telling the truth.
Other comments? Okay,
Go ahead. I do want to express my support for the very intelligent and visionary comments that Karen Boson made and her excellent editorial in the previous Friday, and the letter that Ulrich Brugger, the director of the Ojai Retreat, wrote. I think what the heart of this problem, I think, has always, let me choose my words carefully, I think it's very clear that the community does want balance, and they want some measure of control over the number of tourists, and they want the city and the city council and those that are attracting tourists to do the groundwork of managing the traffic. That is probably one of the central issues, and we have miles to go. We're 20 years behind in many respects in managing our bringing balance to our car-dominated infrastructure. We're behind on that. And the other thing I want to say is I keep hearing about, festivals and Ojai Day and different events to attract tourists, and I support that. I think that's part of having a balance in our community. But let's not forget that originally the tourists came to Ojai, the visitors were drawn to Ojai without any extraneous advertising, because Ojai in and of itself offers health, a place for spiritual renewal. It offers incredible beauty. As I said before, it's one of the most beautiful valleys in the world. And those three aspects alone, we want to protect. That is the basis. That should be the foundation of our tourist industry, for want of a better word, and not all the festivals that are wonderful. But that's not the basis. What the community wants to protect is the natural beauty, the spiritual renewal, and the opportunity to renew our health. Health and wellness, and are the basis. It should be the basis of a balanced, healthy tourism industry. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan. Penny? Please, yeah, right. Waving is okay. This is not so good, right? Yeah, and no booze, okay? That's to protect me, the booze.
And may I just quickly, I would be happy to take a leadership role in the kind of tourism balanced. I think everyone on the council is on board for that, that we're not going to drop the ball and let things just go as they may. We will, find a vision and a way that works, that preserves our small town.
Okay.
No, I have nothing.
Randy, there's a motion on the floor, so you're welcome to another shot at it.
No, no, I'm done.
You're
I'm
done?
done on it.
Okay, well, thank you. Okay, I won't belabor the point either. Should we call the roll?
Councilmember Blatz?
Yes.
Councilmember Francina?
Yes.
Councilmember Haney?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Wyrick?
Yes.
Mayor Johnston?
Yes. Motion passes. Okay, I'm going to call a 5-minute recess here so that those of you who have come to hear what you were interested in can exit, and then we'll continue and try and move the agenda along. Part of the meeting, if you could, as they say, take it outside. Okay, the meeting is... Okay, the meeting's back in order. The city attorney suggests that I open and continue the public hearing on the budget, because we're not going to deal with that the rest of the evening. We're going to get through the agenda. So I'm opening the public hearing.
And then continue to the date certain of June
27th?
27th.
Okay.
Second.
Second, okay, moved and second. Any objection? If not, so ordered. Okay, hearing is continued. We're now going to take up item number 6, which is the Cultural Heritage RFP. And I guess, let's see, staff, I don't see a name on, oh, Steve. Steve, you want to give us a quick overview of the thing?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. As directed by council, staff prepared a request for proposals for cultural resources policies. We received 2 proposals, one from eCorps Consulting and one from John Mention Associates. Those were the 2 responses that we received. The one came in at just under $80,000, $79,845. That was from eCorps. The proposal received from John Mention Associates was a not-to-exceed cost of $91,510. As directed by council, we're bringing this back to City Council for their consideration and for further direction to staff. Because there are just 2 applicants, we're not recommending that you necessarily set up an interview committee, but that is certainly an option if the council wanted to designate that to 2 individuals and come back with a recommendation, or the council could take a look at it as a whole or give some other direction to staff. Happy to answer your questions.
Okay.
Just one question. Have you budgeted the money for this in this year's budget?
No, there's no money in the fiscal year 17-18 budget for this, so there would need to be an appropriation for that, and we need to make some adjustments if the council wants to go that direction.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I have cards on this unless the council has other questions of staff. Is it Andrew Stasi? Is that right pronunciation, or am I close?
You are doing very well.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, City Council. Thank you for your service. I read both proposals. Andrew Stasi, 305 East Matilla office. I actually live out in the East End. Ultimately, the City Council, the elephant in the room, whether you farm this out to consultants or you do it in-house, you're going to have to qualify and look at exemptions. You're going to have to qualify and look at discretionary versus non-discretionary issues and off-ramps. But that being said, having read the proposals, it is obviously it's a complex issue. And if you look at the number of hours, and if you qualify and if you can believe their hourly rate, it's 500 hours, plus or minus worth of work based on their rate. So there's a lot of work to be done. It's important work. Obviously, there is an ordinance that is necessary to be had. That being said, I would encourage you to consider and pursue further outreach with the county on this issue. The county is in the process. I'm not exactly sure where they're at. They may not have gone very far, but in some ways, either has the city, as far as actually developing an actual ordinance. There's been a lot of discussion and a lot of issues considered. The county, the issues regarding cultural resources are no different than air or water, and they certainly don't stop at the city limits. If this was an air quality issue or a water issue, I'm quite certain that there would be more collaboration and outreach to the county, and I encourage you to consider at least pushing, even if the county is not responsive, pushing within the guidelines, in the spirit of the guidelines for orderly development, pushing this issue a little bit further with the county. It's expensive. Possibly there could be some collaboration in regards to the expense, and it's something for you to consider.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Dawn? Okay, Julie?
Good evening, Mayor Johnston, council members, staff, and community, and those listening. Julie Tumamayat Stensley, Tribal Chair of the Barbareño Ventureño Band of Mission Indians, Chumash. Did you all receive a copy in the emails Okay, then
I
I won't
received- I
pass
received
these
it,
out.
yeah.
Okay, all right. I am currently setting up a meeting with Ventura County for our SB 18 consultation on the general plan, which is part of a state bill. So we will be doing that. And so within the structure of the general plan for Ventura County, we will be discussing the Ojai Valley and its fringes that we know are as sensitive as this 4.4-mile city. So as you received in your packet, we wrote down just some bullet points of why we feel these proposals really don't fit the bill, that they do not correlate with the RFP scope of work. The total costs are not really provided in there. I think they're going to be way over than what is being proposed in there, both firms. No experience in writing ordinances or policies where are these samples of it in their documents. Both are archaeological firms, and I believe that you said we don't want archaeologists doing this. We want professional people with that expertise. They don't understand what we want with the experience of ministerial projects. Both firms want to use maps, and we've already discussed that in some of our council meetings that we weren't going to go there. Firms are not versed in planning process or procedures. Firms lack experience with general plan and implementation programs. They would have to be taught, and they'd have to learn what we're doing. And the firms don't address the unique set of circumstances with Ojai's archaeological sensitivity. So with that in mind, and it's spelled out a little bit further in your other letter there, that in summary, and I'll read that, we find that the proposals do not meet the needs of the city. We suggest revisiting the proposals contained within the ad hoc committee report presented to council on December 20th, 2016. We would like to sit down at the table with city staff and the public who attended the ad hoc committee. We are committed to come together to reach a viable solution that meets the city's needs. And where tourism is part of a good place for Ojai, it always has been, but I like this hashtag, Keep Ojai Lame. And I want to look into that and what that means when I see those bumper stickers around town. We know the other one, Enjoy the Ojai Valley Slowly. And it is a place for revitalization of the spirit and the soul, because there are thousands and thousands of years of healing places that were used for a millennium that people come here for, and those places are still here. Some have been cell towers put on them, which is unfortunate, but there are some mountaintops here that are still very, very powerful. There are waterways that are still untapped, and within that are our cultures. So, we want to work with the public. We want to bring, I feel that it's really important to use the expertise. We've had these proposals here, and we are the experts here. We have everything that's needed within the proposals and what the public and what we put together. If we can come together, and I agree with Andrew, we need to go over those exemptions. We need to get some type of be on the same page with what we're doing to coordinate, collaborate, and find that place where we can come together on those issues of ministerial, of emergencies. We had all that. We were in that process of doing that, coming together right at the point when it was taking a little bit longer than we all wanted. We put a lot of effort, both on the public's side and on our side. So that's what we're looking for, is to work within our staff and be part of that process. So thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Julie. Don?
Believe it or not, I'll keep it brief. I agree with what Julie said, and I have reviewed the proposals in detail, and if you have any questions, I'm available to answer those questions.
Okay, thank you. Okay, that's all the cards I
Have
have.
a motion if,
Okay, just say, did I miss anybody? I think I got all the cards. Okay. Bill?
I'm going to make a motion for no further action on either of these two proposals, and if it's seconded, I'll have some comments and discussion.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Go ahead.
I think this entire exercise, unfortunately, and it's not the fault of staff, they did what we asked them to do, but it's based on a false premise. The premise was there was existing activity going on in the county that we were going to piggyback on in a cost-effective fashion. This is not the result. I think that we, personally, I would like, I think Mr. Stassi put his finger on it, we need to find a way to work with the county. I would also hope that the Native American Commission would make some comments and some suggestions, and I'm kind of disappointed that that state agency doesn't have some templates and some recommendations. So I think we need to find a way to work with the county. We need to look at what internal resources we have, which is what Julie was talking about. But what we got here is not the way to go, and that's why I made the motion.
Okay. Other comments?
No, I support the comments that Councilmember Wyrick just made, and we are so fortunate to have 3 experts. We have John Foster, archaeological expert, right? And then Julie Tumamite, who's like a chief. She's a tribal expert. She really knows, she's a state recognized for her area of expertise. And we have Dawn, who researches tirelessly. So we should make use of these 3 experts that we have. That's my feeling.
Mr. Mayor, I'm going to support Mayor Pro Tem Wyrick's motion, but I agree the premise of this was we had heard that something was happening and we were going to piggyback it, and clearly that's not the case. But what these firms even responded to isn't what we were looking for. We don't need monitors. We don't need archaeologists. We need somebody to come in and help us finalize all the work that's been done on the committee, at the committee level, to bring this to some sort of an ordinance and some type of a process that we can follow. And I didn't glean that out of either one of these proposals. It looked up to me as though they wanted to come in and just do monitoring. I mean, even one of them says our management team can handle all aspects of archaeological and paleological issues. Well, that's not what we need. We need somebody to come in, and I agree, maybe the Native American Commission should be able to help us with that somehow. But I agree. I think we ought to just table both these and take no further action on them.
No, I'm in agreement.
Yeah. Okay, I am also in agreement, so call the roll. Or I guess if there's no objection, any objection? If not, we'll so order. Unanimous, okay, thank you.
Mayor, I just have one question. So where do we go from here? So we're going to table this, and then what happens? Do we revisit this in 30 days, or what's?
What
I'm
is?
a little uncomfortable because that's not on the agenda, really, but,
And maybe we should.
You could at least provide some direction to staff within the confines of the agenda item.
Okay.
Don't act on these proposals, but come back with something at a future agenda item. Sorry to interrupt there.
So, what do you suggest, Randy?
Well, I don't want to leave it just laying out there.
Okay,
So maybe I know we got a full agenda next, on the 27th, and July is semi-short. We want to come back in August.
Well, a couple of things, if you tell me if I'm out of school here, I've already made a couple of things I think we could agree on. We need to, I think, we have a member of the Native American Commission here.
Yes, yeah.
And I'd like to urge her to get whatever feedback and resources we can from the state level as possible, number one. Number two, we need to find out what is going on with the county and what is going on with the area plan update. I mean, there's so many, what I would suggest is that we do get some due diligence and then have an agenda item and then have some information and proceed.
Great, well.
Would you like a brief report?
Again, when do we want to do that? That's what I'm saying. When do we want to bring it back? Do we want to give
July.
Julie? You want to give Julie and you want to give staff 30 days, 60 days? July.
Second meeting in July, pardon me.
Second, yeah.
Sounds good. Do we want to give Julie another opportunity if there's any feedback or direction she wants to give? Let's give her, can she speak? Julie?
It's up to the mayor.
Mayor Johnson?
Well, that's fine. Yeah, I mean, if it's within the, Randy makes a good point. Where do we go from here? So.
Yeah.
Well, working with staff, I think, is very important. I have confidence in James, and I think he'll be a good person to help start this. Our end is that I think our ad hoc should get back involved with the public that wrote the proposal, so we can finish that dialogue of coming up with exemptions. And I won't be in town in July of that meeting. I'll be out of town. I will reach out to the Heritage Commission and to our attorney, Terry Robinson, and ask what's out there for this particular
Okay, City
situation.
Manager, where are we, like in August? We have...
We have the first meeting in August, which I believe is the 8th, thank you, is the 8th. And then the 22nd, we're planning to go dark.
Okay, so the 8th of August, will you be back?
Yeah.
Okay. That'll-
Okay, we'd like you to be here.
Okay,
I think
well,
it's important, yeah.
So I think to be clear, Julie, I think we're asking if you can to bring us some information from the governing bodies through the state.
Yes.
And that we in turn are going to seek information through the county as to what they're doing and how they're doing it? Is that what William, is that what?
Yes.
Okay.
And I believe when the background report with the County of Ventura, is that due the end of June? I don't remember now, but anyway, it's online recorded, that we will have our meeting within this next week or next week, this week or next week, so that we can finish up, we have to open up the initial study again, which includes a lot of information, research stuff that they're not hitting on, so.
So then my guess
We might
is-
have both for you.
So my guess is in August, then we can then make a recommendation as to which way to proceed.
Yeah.
Whether to regroup with the ad hoc and community,
Yeah.
or, and with planning, but I think that's the decision that we'll be making in August.
Okay. I think this actually opens up the bigger question of the general plan and a general plan update. We're going to be going through the budget in the next 2 weeks. Certainly, this kind of money for just one area where nobody who knows anything about the topic is satisfied, if the city takes its responsibility. I think we had an issue one evening on the general plan where there's an annual report to the state that apparently we weren't doing. And
We started it.
Right, and we are now doing it, but we hadn't been doing it, and we're not the only community that hadn't been doing it. But the County of Ventura is also engaged now in a general plan review. So I guess I would, if, with the council's concurrence, ask staff to have Matt Winiger coordinate with the county and see if we can kind of get some sort of idea of what we can do with our general plan in conjunction with what the county's doing in the valley.
Understood. If I could, with your indulgence, Mr. Mayor, if I could ask Mr. Vega to come up. He did reach out to the county, and I believe he could give us a very quick report on what he found with his research in terms of what the county was doing on cultural resources.
Right. So it has been a couple of months since we've reached out to the county. So I can always reach out to them again and see if there's been any update. At that time, what was said was that the work that had been done was focused on the coastal plan, and that they were going to look into the cultural resources issue as part of the general plan. I was going to say 2020 update, but I think they are past that. But as part of the new general plan update, but they had said that was a couple years down the line. But I will make contact with Julie. I know she said she is going to be meeting with the county, and then we'll make contact with the county, and I'll also ask Mr. Winiger to reach out as well, and we'll come back with more information on that meeting, August 8th.
Okay, so we're in agreement, this will be on the agenda first week in August, okay.
Yep,
Our first
thank you.
meeting in August.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, now where are we on the agenda here?
I think we're on lighting districts.
I think that's correct.
So now we go back to one?
Number
Or
three.
two? Number three?
Right.
Or, well, number 4 or whatever.
I believe number 3 would
No,
be.
no, we had a 2 and a 4.
No, we didn't change the numbers.
Okay, all
We-
right, number
okay.
3 again.
Okay, so we're on number 3, and this is listed under public hearing, so we open the public hearing, is that?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, the public hearing on item number 3, the collection assessment of lighting in landscaping district number 1 is now open. Staff?
Just very quickly, recommending that you hold a public hearing, adopt a resolution ordering the work and levying the assessments for landscaping lighting district number 1 without an increase. This is for fiscal year 17-18. Also adopt a resolution ordering the work and levying assessment for landscaping lighting district, and direct the clerk to transmit the necessary documents to the County of Ventura. Very briefly, on April 25th, the council approved the engineer's report for this district. The districts were established to provide necessary funding for electricity and maintenance costs associated with the city's network of streetlights. And again, we are proposing no increase in the assessments for the coming fiscal year. Be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions from the staff?
Yeah, I do, really quickly, Mayor. Last year, we discovered that the Entergy, who we pay for the maintenance of these poles and the energy of these poles, was charging the same for LED as for non-LED on the energy costs. Has anything changed?
Go ahead, Ms. Grant.
Yes, SCE has completed that tariff. It was fully accepted by the PUC, so they now have a tariff that's a little bit cheaper than the tariff we have now, which allows for LED lights. We were working with SCE and some part of the Green Coalition to try to find lights that were not as high temperature. You know, the LED lights that are at the Y by overhead lights by Caltrans, and also lights at Chevron are the higher temperature lights. They're 4,000 to 5,000, much brighter light, and there's been a lot of complaints.
Yeah, not money, but K. Right.
Yeah, the Kelvin, right? So
I'm just glad to hear of progress.
So there's progress. They've just come out with a 3,000 temperature light, which is much more acceptable. I think the county has jumped on it. They're trying to do the unincorporated area. They're just trying to sign a contract now with SCE, and I thought it would be ideal to let them install those at the Miners Oaks unincorporated area.
For our district.
It looks good. Everybody's accepting
Good.
it.
Thank
yeah.
you.
Okay, thank you, Greg.
I had one question, Mayor.
Randy?
Do we have any additional occurring costs from last fiscal year to next?
No, it's pretty well fixed cost, same tariff.
So the employee salaries are the same, no vehicle replacements, all of the things that we use to maintain this, there's no additional costs that are occurred?
In these particular districts, the lights are maintained by the SCE, so these funds are collected and transferred over to SCE for the maintenance and operation.
There is some overhead charge.
Right.
Yeah, I also want to note that,
Right?
yeah, and that is correct. And there is a surplus in this fund, so we're projecting a surplus of over $43,000 to remain after paying for this year's maintenance and utility costs.
Okay.
So we do have a little bit there in the reserve to handle future increases.
I move approval.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, moved and second. Any further discussion? If not, roll call.
Just one question, Mr. Mayor. What is it that we're voting on? We've got two resolutions and then a direction to the city clerk, so.
Well, I'm going to, I'm moved to approve numbers 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Okay.
Every one of them.
Okay, do I need to close the hearing before we vote?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, okay. If there's no further testimony, okay, the hearing is closed. We have a
Sorry.
motion. Okay, and the motion is?
To approve numbers 1, 2, 3, 4 recommendations.
Okay, well,
We got a second on
2,
it?
3, and 4?
And we have
One,
a
two-
second.
Well, yeah, 2, 3, 4,
Yeah,
sorry.
okay. So it's been moved, seconded. No further discussion. If not, call the roll.
Mayor Johnston?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Wyrick?
Yes.
Councilmember Blatz?
Yes.
Councilmember Francina?
Yes.
Councilmember Haney?
Yes.
Okay. Motion passes. Item number 4, a levy and collection of assessments for the Arcade Plaza Maintenance District for 17-18. And I declare the public hearing is now open. Staff?
Again, very brief report. This is a very similar mechanism to the item that was just conducted by the council, except this is for the levy and collection of assessments for the Arcade Plaza Maintenance District. The district provides funding for utility and maintenance costs associated with the Arcade Plaza. And just a note, on April 25th, the council did approve the engineer's report and declared its intent to levy and collect these assessments, I should say, without an increase. The $2.5 million renovation of the plaza was completed in 2002, and the city has been maintaining it from that time. In June of 2012, district property owners did approve a 5% increase in assessments for each year for the next 5 consecutive years, with no increase after the 5th year. That began in fiscal year 12-13, and the last incremental increase that was approved occurred this current fiscal year 16-17. There is no increase proposed for fiscal year 17-18, as the 5-year increase period is completed. Be happy to answer any questions.
Does this fund show a negative, or is that a different one?
This was a positive.
No, this is also showing a surplus.
43,000.
Of also 43,000.
Okay.
This is an annual surplus, but there's a deficit remaining from previous before the increases were made. So I think there's still about maybe $130,000 deficit remaining on the books accumulated.
And how is the deficit eliminated?
Through the surplus that's occurring now that the...
It goes to pay down the...
Right.
And that deficit was covered by the city, and so this money comes back to the city?
Exactly.
Okay, thank you.
And I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, I realize paging through these two reports, I grabbed the wrong page here. When I spoke earlier on the landscape and lighting, that actually has a projected surplus of $18,426. The $43,000 that I quoted was incorrect. The $43,000 surplus is for this district, not for the landscape and lighting. So sorry about that.
Does the lighting district have a negative, cumulative negative as well?
No, between districts 1 and 2, we're projecting a surplus at the end of fiscal year 17-18 of $18,426 for the two together.
Right, but there's no...
There's no accumulated, though, no.
All right.
Sorry, yeah.
Okay, so we're on the plaza, and any other questions of staff? If not, I don't have any cards, but is there anyone here who wishes to speak on this? If not, I guess we close the hearing, and...
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to adopt a resolution as fully described in Attachment A of the packet, and direct the city clerk to transmit the necessary documents to the County of Ventura for levying and collection of property assessment for the said district.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
It's been seconded. Any further discussion? If not, roll call.
Mayor Pro Tem Wyrick?
Aye.
Councilmember Blatz?
Yes.
Mayor Johnston?
Yes.
Councilmember Francina?
Yes.
Councilmember Haney?
Yes.
Okay, let's see, where does that?
Is it number
7?
7?
I believe that's correct.
We've jumped over, 5, 6, yeah, we're at 7. A letter of reorganization, the Ojai Ground Water Basin. Yeah, the OBGMA. Shall I take that, or do you?
Feel free, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, I was one that requested this to be put on the agenda. As everybody, I guess, on the council and probably in the community now know, that the Flow has successfully completed their campaign. Casitas has issued the bonds and bought out Golden State. Now, one of the functions that Golden State provided was to have a representative on the Groundwater Basin Management Agency. They no longer will have that person, so we have 4 members of the Basin Agency in place, and the question is how will the 5th seat be filled? And everybody has been sort of saying after you, no after you, and nobody stepping forward, so I finally, after listening to it for 2 months, I thought, well, okay, the city can provide that direction, and what I'm asking for is the authority to work out some sort of plan, and what I believe the plan is, barring someone coming up with something better, is that we use the same boundaries that the Golden State Water Company followed, because those are the boundaries we now have that for the bond issue. That's, I think it's called what, Community Facilities?
Community Facilities District.
So we use that as the geographic area, but there is no entity, that would be the jurisdiction, but there is no entity to select their representative. Having a general election for a position like that is very cumbersome and expensive. All the other positions have been filled by organizations that exist. The City of Ojai, the Casitas Municipal Water District, and then there are 2 other conservation districts that pick their representatives. So my suggestion is that we support legislation that would both create the jurisdiction to be the Community Facilities District, and to be given the authority to the Groundwater Basin Board to have the 4 positions that are filled by these other jurisdictions select that 5th person from a resident within the district. Now, not a perfect solution, but it would require 3 of the 4 votes, so it wouldn't be like they would be picking their majority. There is some concern that they don't want to have too much sway by any one group over how the water basin is managed. I think we probably can get concurrence in that, and that is the condition under which the state legislator said they would introduce the legislation, that we all agree amongst ourselves. So we got to get started at some point. So if that sounds reasonable to the council, I'll propose that to the agency at the end of the month and see if we can get concurrence by the other members, and then we'll approach the state legislature to get the law changed.
Ask a question.
Sure.
Yeah. Let's refresh my memory now. The current members of the OBGMA, not including Golden State, are the city, community, the CMWD, the Casitas Municipal Water District, the Conservation District.
Right, Ojai Water.
And the mutuals.
Correct. Right, you've got it. And the other was the Golden State, which is no longer there.
What was the
So
fourth?
now, what happens?
Mutual Water District.
So we have 4.
We have 4.
What happens if they split on a choice?
Well, they're going to have to at some point make a decision, or
Okay.
they won't have a 5th member.
Right. So if they were deadlocked, it would just continue as 4.
It wouldn't until they
Right,
could
okay.
reach a candidate, they would.
Okay. Okay, I can't think of a better solution. I just want to make sure I understand.
Right, okay.
And unfortunately, the problem is, there's no governing entity to the CFD.
Correct.
If there was, that would be the group to do it. But
Yeah.
they don't have a governing entity.
And the closest thing they have to it is the Casitas Municipal Water District, who already has a representative, and
Right.
that would give them 2.
Right.
And I suspect that would be controversial
Yes.
amongst the other jurisdictions. So, like I say, it's not a perfect plan, but it's a method that's been used in other jurisdictions to come up with the 5th board member.
And so the idea that they would be restricted to being a resident, that residing in the CFD,
Correct.
that they would have to choose from.
Right, it'd have to be somebody who actually lived here and
Okay.
received the service.
Mr. Mayor, in our
Yeah.
packet, in the administrative report, it says that we've been requested by Ojai Flow it appears to allow them to select the holder of that seat. Is that your understanding?
That was one of the suggestions, and that, frankly, with me, that's okay, because they're a good group, and they did a lot of, but they're not really an organization with a jurisdiction. So, if somebody can figure out how to translate that into a mechanism that can create the 5th member.
Well, I see that we have
Yeah.
2 members of the board of Ojai Flow here, so.
Can we
maybe
open
hear
the
from
public hearing? Yeah. I want to hear from members
So
of the
there's no public hearing,
Or
but
I
we're
wanna-
certainly going to have comments.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
And
I want to
I'd
hear
love
from
to see if
pub-
our legal wizard has some
Yeah.
thoughts on how to have
Yeah,
Ojai Flow, or any other ideas.
The name, actually, I'll just, put it out there, the person that I think everybody would like to see is Richard Hages from
Yes.
Flow.
Yes.
He's by far, he is a resident of the district. He was a major, even before there was a Flow, Richard was there, and he has incredible credentials fortuitously for us, because he actually managed the operations at Casitas at one point, and then he retired as the manager of Camrosa, so he would be an ideal candidate, and I think that's the way it'll work out, but we got to have a mechanism by which to get him there, and so, Don, did you want to?
Dale.
Well, only to say that I think Richard Hages, you couldn't do any better than that. And I think that he would represent it. He is a resident of the city, and certainly a water expert, and I would really like to see him on that seat.
Right.
Thank you.
Did the Flow group talk at all about how, what kind of a, instead of the community facilities district, how we could create legislation? Because I don't think we really care how it's
We
done,
really-
as long as everybody.
We really didn't. To my knowledge, that was never discussed, because I don't think that we recognize that as a problem for the
Right.
seat. It just seemed like Richard should have the seat, and that was it.
Okay, well, we're
So
trying
we
to
could
find
fig- I can
a
figure-
pathway.
You write a
You
state
guys
law.
can
How do
figure
you write
that
a
out.
Say, it's worth pointing out, you can't write a state law that, as you imagine, that gives a
No.
seat to a particular person. I think your options from law are give the seat to the council could choose him. Give the seat to, and you could even make it that it's one seat for the city is a council member, the second seat for the city is appointed by the city from the residents of the CFD. You could have the Casitas Board, who is the governing board of the CFD, choose a member, a resident from the CFD. You could also ask the legislature, particularly Ledge Council, would they be willing to accept allowing Ojai Flows Board to make the selection from the residents of the CFD? It's not unheard of in the water agency context. There's at least one I'm aware of where you have a similar approach, but admittedly it's not typical. Most of the time, the boards of these kinds of things that are governments or that are petite government entities are selected from either voter approval positions or other entities that in the end derive back to the voters. And that's where I would expect the legislature to end up going. It'd be nice if they would certainly allow Ojai Flow to select the seat, and it's more than worth asking. But it may be the case that the backup that the mayor's proposed of selecting it from the CFD district residents would allow you to get where we're trying to go with this individual.
It's perfectly clear.
Yeah, whatever he said, right? The problem I see with trying to do it with Flow or any other organization like that is that how are they in perpetuity? How do they perpetuate themselves in the future? Right. And who elected them too, so trying to find a way where if we have 4 people that went through a filtering process, from each jurisdiction appoints a rep. We got 4 of them there. They all would have to negotiate to somebody that was acceptable to the 4. It seems like the only, anyway, that's the logic. So where are we?
My personal preference would be for us to select the 5th person.
The city?
The city. Yeah, we have a place on the board for one of a representative, an elected representative by the citizens, and I see no reason why we shouldn't, in the absence of Golden State, select our own person to be that 5th person on the board.
Okay, that would seem from those of us, sort of, I don't know, it would be called ethnocentric, but from where we sit, that makes sense. But I can assure you that if that gets proposed, it fails the first test for the state legislator to introduce the legislation on the basis that it would be controversial. Mm-hmm. Now, maybe we can go ahead and try it, but that was the reason for not suggesting that.
Would it be possible, since the city is pretty much coextensive with the community's facility district, that if we went with your suggestion, that at least the city council maybe would be the tiebreaker? If it was a 2-2? I'm just trying to think of structurally how to make this work. Well, another option is for the city or the city council to basically recognize a nonprofit group, and then if we had to have successors to make that choice. There's no good solution. Now, yours is probably the best, but I am worried about the tiebreaker thing.
Well, actually, I don't know that these positions are that cherished that it would, as long as the person had have an application, not just pick somebody. Mm-hmm. But I'm quite sure in the case right now, we're blessed with having somebody who would have a great resume. After Richard, I'm not sure what we may have somebody else with a great resume. But my sense of being on the board, and Paul, you were on it. I don't know how many others have served on it. It's fairly collegial now. I mean, it's not like we're the boogeyman over here, except they weren't thrilled when we unanimously challenged the sustainable water plan. But we're sort of kind of partially past that, except for the economics. Who pays for the broader plan?
Was that approved yet?
No. EWR has yet to rule on that.
That could be years in the making.
They
got till 2022. But I don't think that the board, at least as it's now constituted, would, as long as they didn't feel like it was somebody's stooge that was being put up, because each one of them could make the same argument. We could go to Casitas and say, well, Casitas also is an elected board, and they also have this. They have the power over the thing. But I think they'd push back on that. They'd push back on us, and I don't think we want to turn it over to the little mutuals. I don't think they want it. So.
And it comes down to what we can persuade Sacramento, our representatives, to sponsor.
Right.
And it seems to me that your suggestion might be the best thing, with the exception of the tiebreaker issue, to get them to sponsor. I think you're right. I still think the city could be a tiebreaker, though.
If the legislation is written accordingly, it certainly could be.
Yeah.
It'd be a matter, again, you hit the nail on the head. what can we persuade Sacramento to accept?
Right.
And that's because the OBGMA was created by special legislation in 91, so the board is prescribed in the legislation, thus the legislation has to be changed to reflect these changes.
But Mayor, my take on it is that we need more information. I'm 100% behind this. I agree with yours. I agree with Flo appointing someone. It doesn't matter to me, but it's got to be presented. It's got to be presented to the state, and we need state support to write whatever changes that we need to the 91. So I think we need a little more information. Is this a life or death issue?
Well, what's the calendar for introducing legislation in the current cycle?
Well, I don't know, in the current cycle.
The date to introduce legislation has passed. However, most legislators keep at least one bill in their pocket that they can do a gut and amend to. You'd have to find a legislator willing to use one of their pocket gut and amend bills to accomplish a change this session. Else, it could be done next session.
Do you have anyone?
Do I?
Have you talked to someone?
Right.
With a pocket?
And it's worth pointing out.
There will be someone.
Okay.
Here's the deal.
Well, I think
somebody has to go to the OBGMA
Yeah.
and make a proposal. And then they can push back on it and say, no, we don't like it. But at least we make the conversation move forward, and they may like it, because I brought it up during a subcommittee meeting, and nobody, we all kind of wrestled with it. Nobody could figure out any better way to do it, even though we weren't all satisfied. Same issue you brought up, Bill, what happens if it's 2-2? But the likelihood of the 2-2 is a disadvantage to the OBGMA board, so I'm not sure, as long as the candidate, I know what our Congress is doing these days on all trying to select people, so I guess we're jaded because of that.
Can we hear from Ryan from Flo? Maybe he has some insights.
Ryan, are you still with us? Yeah.
I have a speaker card up there somewhere.
You do?
Yeah.
Oh, let's see, where do they put it? Well, you've been very patient then, I apologize.
Yeah, I can answer pretty much every question you just asked.
Oh, you're so confident. Jeez.
Hey,
unfortunately,
okay,
that's how the procedure works, I'm
The run of the
afraid.
family.
First of all, I as soon as there was some indication that we might be settling this case early, I reached out to Monique Lamone, our state legislator, his office, and we've already set the groundwork for all this. On top of that, I told them that what we would do is we would garner the support of the local interested agencies, which we've already reached out to informally, and nobody has had any problem with the Ojai Flow support, pretty much because of two things. One, it sits in the same footprint as the Golden State District did, the Community Facilities District. Nobody disagrees with that. The second one was, no matter which one of those other options you have, and our board did discuss this at length, and we did come to a unanimous decision, and that's why there was a proposal to the city that did suggest the Ojai Flow Board doing it, with the questions asked about longevity and continuity and those types of things, because none of the other options alleviated all the problems. Now, we, as a board, all agreed on another thing, is that we didn't want this to appear to be a power grab. This is not an opportunity for us to stuff the board, but what we were worried about, and you have to understand a little bit about how these groundwater management agencies work. Most of the current management agencies are being created right now under the State Water Act from a couple years ago, and those are due at the end of June. So there's a couple that are new, like the North River Water, Ventura River Water District was just formed. They're all, and I've been in multiple seminars regarding some of these new GMAs that are being created. And what the attorneys who have been working on these are all saying, and it's my opinion as well, is that these are boards that don't make authoritative administrative decisions that carry the weight of the law. The law supersedes the authority of the OBGMAs. So what happens is these are one of those boards that they don't have a lot of authority now, but when the time comes, they're incredibly important. And at that moment is when the interested parties that are on that board, who all have their straws in the same pot of water, they're not as calm and they're not as friendly as they were. And all of these boards have the same problem, is that there's an inherent conflict of interest. Even if the city council does it, which I have no doubt that the next sitting city council, whenever this issue would come up, would be more than robustly vetting a new candidate, but at the same time, they'll be able to put two candidates on that have the same view. They'll have one from this body and one who they select. So inherently, there's an imbalance. And if you understand how these boards work, because California water law supersedes all of the administrative acts of these agencies, if the people in the OBGMA aren't happy when the final decision's made in a severe drought situation, that's where their real authority is bound, then they don't leave and go, darn, we didn't have the votes. They go hire the attorneys, do an adjudication, and the whole thing ends up in court, and it didn't matter that the OBGMA did it. So these new agencies are relying on local, especially nonprofit interested agencies a lot, because they help bind that decision together with the community in a way that resolves their being.
Ryan, when you talk to Limon, Is she good with the, if we, I think the idea of going with Flo's great, if everybody else will agree to it.
Well,
So if we could get authority from us to propose that, then we can see whether there's any pushback? Is
Her
that-
answer was, she has no problem with it. She said, but what we offered is, I knew the answer was going to be, well, yeah, it's great as long as nobody complains about it, right? So what we as a board said is, let's go to our local city council first, see if they agree with us. Then we'll take their decision, or at least their recommendation, and take that to the county of Ventura, to, specifically to Steve Bennett and the Board of Supervisors, and then to the OBGMA, and then to the Casitas Board. And during this time, we've been kind of waiting and for all this to happen, and then the transition's been happening all at the same time with Golden State leaving. I've been working closely with Russ Baggerly, who's on the Casitas Board and the OBGMA Board, and he is in agreement as well that this is an appropriate measure. So what our idea was to get this board, this council to decide first, and then take that recommendation and apply it. And if we garnered the consensus of all the agencies, then we would be good to go. If not, then we'd have to revisit and work it out somewhere else.
Okay, the county of Ventura, do they have a stake in this, or is that just to get political
It was,
support?
the idea was to alleviate anybody who might have a problem. There's
Okay.
absolutely no necessity to go to the county of Ventura, but we thought that it'd be better to have them give a thumbs up than have them show up and give a thumbs down later on.
Bill?
Right, and I think we're all on board with Ojai Flow being a great, initial appointing agency or a group. You've danced around the question, though. How do you craft the legislation for succession?
It's very simple. It's exactly what's proposed in the staff report. All it would say is that it would be that the Ojai Flow Board of Directors would select a resident of the CFD who's not already a city council member, an OBGMA member, or remember that, and that's it.
Now, you're still
After
dancing
that-
around the issue.
Well, no, because you can only do one. You can't put in alternatives. You can't have a tiebreaker agency. I've never seen that in any of these legislations.
You're still dancing around the issue. The issue is, all the existing ones have set, structure set up. Even the Golden State was the successor to Southern Water, okay? So the question is, if Flow goes away in some future decade,
Right.
Then what?
what
legislation-
is the legislative,
The legislation would be modified just
so
as,
you'd have to go back to Sacramento?
just like one day they had to say,
So
what
that-
if Golden State?
The answer is, go back to Sacramento.
Yeah,
if
for
Flow
that
goes
purpose,
away.
yes, for
Okay.
that. And just like the legislation now doesn't have any alternative members, when Golden State disappeared, we had to go back to the legislature.
No, that's not a proper analogy
Well,
at all.
okay, no,
That's just
but-
not.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, Ryan, do you think that the other jurisdictions that are represented on OBGMA are kind of in sync with this? Because it seems to, I'm more than willing, I think probably the council.
According to Mr. Baggerly, there's been nobody who had a real problem with it. I know that Roger Essick was an individual I'd heard that there was some concern with, and I think that Richard Hages had talked to him, and I believe somebody else
Roger
did.
just resigned.
Well, I know. I mean, but obviously this has been, as you said, this has been going on for months. So this isn't the first time, but I am aware of that too. So the question is really getting it in front of everybody with some formality.
Okay, well, how about this? Why don't we, if I can get some authority to present something, maybe both of these with whatever you say is position one flow, position fallback position. is-
And I do, and I appreciate Mayor Pro Tem Wyrick, your comments. I want to make this very clear. Ojai Flow is not interested in having this authority. It's just the only option we could come up with that alleviated all the conflicts of interest, and understanding that the time when this all matters is not now. It's when if we had not gotten any rain for another 2 years, is when we would do it. And frankly, after looking at how the state responded in this last drought, I don't personally, our board doesn't, and nobody really else does, have a lot of faith that if anybody has a conflict of interest, if we're all looking at the last drop of water, that we're not going to abuse that power somehow.
One more question regarding Flow. Flow is, are they a nonprofit incorporated
Yes.
jurisdiction?
Exactly.
And the people on the board are selected how?
The people on the board were all the original members, so we have not added anyone the entire time, but this has been discussed, and the requirement and the responsibility had been asked directly. I believe that the city had inquired about this question as well, but I specifically asked our board. I said, do we want to take on this responsibility for the continuity in the future? And the reality of our board is that I'm personally much younger than some of the other members. And we have agreed that, yes, if this responsibility is going to rest with us, then one, we would make sure the continuity. Two, if we were going to dissolve, we would not just disappear, we would ensure that the legislation was changed as fast as
But
possible.
your bylaws that select members for the board, let's assume that everybody moves away. How do we, do you have a method by which the board of directors of Flow are replaced?
Well, we do have bylaws, and we do have a board member selection process. The strange thing about Ojai Flow is that it was 7 people who came together as a primarily formed campaign group that turned into a nonprofit because we couldn't have any continuity after the election to do what we wanted to keep doing. So we formed under that. There is no membership to draw on. What we would do is we would create membership, and then we would decide from that membership who would be on the board, and then from that board they would select a resident of the CFD. And these are all the responsibilities we'd have. The reality of it, though, isn't very difficult. We would essentially look at who we wanted to be the next representative on the OBGMA board, and we'd ask them to join the board. We would go through that process, and then we would vote them in if needed.
I don't have any problem with your going to OBGMA with these two ideas.
Okay, and with the Flow as our first choice, if that works?
Yeah, and frankly, we don't either. I mean, we really want to see this get done, and we want to make sure that everybody understands, because it's such a unique, weird situation, the way these groundwater management agencies work.
As long as we accept the premise that change means going back to Sacramento, okay.
Because the ultimate goal of the groundwater management agencies is to avoid complicated litigation later on.
Let our counsel.
Thank you. One point on that is that you could build the legislation to have an option if Flow ever dissolves some days and hence. It certainly could be built in legislation now. You don't have to go back. And one way to build it in would be one of the two proposals afoot. Have the city select it or go back to the other 4. Should Flow dissolve, the other 4 select to replace as Flow.
I like that.
You can certainly build that in legislation now. It doesn't have to be left open to the future.
And of those options, the only one we would not be very happy with would be the OBGMA selecting it for the sole reason that if you got locked and you couldn't decide, unless there was a specific mechanism created to break the tie, which would take even more time. But if you had to act quickly and get something done, that stalemate could leave a very bad situation for decisions in a drought situation.
Okay, and that is my concern right now, because Randy brought this up a couple meetings ago regarding the financial condition of OBGMA.
Oh, it's hopeless.
Well, it isn't hopeless, but it's difficult with only 4 people, and there 3 of the 4 are brand new. Russ is the only senior member, and so you've got 4 people trying to, the extraction fees and all the things that have to be done to make it financially sound and to meet its responsibilities. So this needs to be done quickly.
I agree.
And I think if we have anything in there that says the fallback position or the default comes back to the city of Ojai, the other jurisdictions are all going to say, wait a minute, we'll be the default and we'll be right back in the same thing. So okay, do you need any more information?
I'm fine.
I don't need information. I just wondered if we have 2 proposals, they're not before us. Can you draft the letters and can we have them presented to us so we know exactly what's being presented to the OBGMA board? That's all. We know that you're going to carry that water to, or OBGMA's or Flow's going to carry that water to other agencies. I'd just like to see what those letters are.
Well, Mr. Mayor, I think that we ought to support the idea that the council believes that Flow should be the decision-making body.
And I think we're all good with that.
And just leave it at that.
And then
Just leave it at
The
that.
fallback, we bring, at the end of this month, I can take this to the OBGMA meeting, and if they say, well, no, that won't work, then I'll come back. Otherwise, this will be it.
Exactly. That's our plan.
Yeah, that's
is
cool.
really we're starting here. This is our backyard. This is the board. This is the council that supported us the whole time. We wanted to get your blessing first and make sure we were all on the same page, and then we'll see what the other agencies have to say. So if we can quickly garner that support, and I know Mr. Bagley's chomping at the bit to help do that, then we should be able to take it to Monique Lamone. And as far as procedurally, I've already spoken to her. There's a lot of cleanup bills. They believe in their office, and I've also talked to Hannah Beth Jackson's office as well, and she's in leadership in the legislature. Between the two of them, they think that they can easily get it attached to something as a cleanup bill.
Right, okay, so.
Do we need anything more formal then? We're done?
Well, okay, we have well, is there any objection to me taking the letter and proposing the Flow be that jurisdiction and the boundaries be the district?
The Community Facilities District.
Okay, cool, thank you.
All right.
Okay, good. Next. Request for services, Ventura County Sheriff.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is as part of the contract. Each year, the City Council is asked to stipulate the request for services from the Ventura County Sheriff. The city may request additional services or enter into discussions with the sheriff to modify the service levels. However, the sheriff establishes a minimum service level for its contract cities. The city is currently at the minimum service levels as stipulated by the sheriff. So we're seeking for council to give some type of direction on the submission of the request. Our recommendation would be to match what we have proposed in the budget, which is to go at the current minimum standard level. One note, we did reach out again to see if we could try to find the original agreement that is referenced in the agreement for police services. We tried to see if perhaps we could get that through the County of Ventura, and we learned today that they as well are not able to find that agreement, and their understanding is that it was lost in a flood some years way back.
So what you're saying is we're gonna, around $3 million a year, and we don't have a foundation legal document for doing it. Okay, I want to pass out something, if I may, Mayor?
Do you have a copy?
Yes.
Found it.
You found it.
No. I compiled, and I just want to bring this in for context. I just got and took some numbers for population from the California Department of Finance, and then I got and went on and redid some research and calculated the per capita law and police services costs for Ojai per capita on the three listed things, 15-16 actual operating, 16-17 adopted budget, and 17-18 proposed budget, and then compiled comparison statistics from Orange County contract cities in 2016, Ventura County contract cities in 2016, Ventura County non-contract cities in 2016, 2 examples each, and a recent city in Santa Barbara County that did an upgrade on their contract with the Santa Barbara County Sheriff's Department, Goleta. And I just want to point out that even this request, which works out to about, I think, $385 per capita, it's a little less than what was put into the proposed budget, is still higher than all of them. People complain about Ventura City being very high because they have their own police department. We're higher than them, according to these data, this statistic. We're higher than Santa Paula, which of course is a different story. We're higher than the other contract cities in Ventura County on a per capita basis. Camarillo was $243 in 2016, Moore Park $199. In 2016, we were at $368. And the point is that this there's say, well, what's the difference of $50? Well, per capita, $50 is $378,000. So if we, for example, just were paying what the city of Ventura is paying, which is their own police department, and the argument being that it's more cost-effective to go with the county, well, that's a difference of $368 to $326 in 2016, $42 per capita times 7,553, that's $317,000. My point being is that when you have no effective contract review over decades, and you just go through cycle after cycle of approving these things, and I'll probably vote to approve this minimum service thing myself tonight, but we've got to get into a discussion of these cost-effectiveness numbers and comparing what we're paying compared to at least other contract cities in Ventura County, because it looks to me like we're at the high end. And I just that bothers me.
Well, where are the other contract cities besides Camarillo here?
Well, I just picked out those two because I was running out of time this afternoon.
Right, but when the point I would make, and not that I am an agent on behalf of the sheriff's office, but we have less than 8,000 people to divide into patrol services and the overhead, whereas Camarillo, Thousand Oaks, and a lot of these towns, is there one of these towns? Santa Paula is not big, but it's still twice our size.
Okay, well, again, that's why I brought in some of those little small Orange County contract cities.
Well, which ones, but what are the populations? I don't think they're too as small as we are.
Well, I didn't put them on this thing, but it's the per capita cost that is the cost-effectiveness statistic.
Okay.
And we are, and I want to vet this further, it looks like we've crept up to the high end of cost, and in fact, above other contract cities on a per capita basis in Ventura County, and it needs a further look.
Okay. A suggestion for a quick review, well, go ahead, Paul.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I don't necessarily disagree with the mayor pro tem, although I do think that we are going to be shifted to the high end because of our low population.
Right.
You get some economy of scale when it comes to contracts for police. And when you're the lowest population, you're going to probably be per capita the highest, if you're expecting to get the same kind of service. Now, I could be wrong, but
Well, I'm not
logically,
sure.
that's just the way it seems to me.
If we're,
sure about that.
if we're being charged a different rate per unit than the rest of the jurisdictions, that would raise questions
And I
in
wanna
my
look
mind.
into that.
But if we are
Yeah.
being charged the same rate for a squad car, say, and you divide one, I don't know, what do you consider a post position? 5 officers in 2 shifts or 3 shifts, or what?
Usually it works out to be about 4.5 officers per post factor.
Right, so you take that and you apply it to all the different cities. If you divide our population into that, then the way in which to get the per capita more competitive is to get down to 1/8 of a car, you know,
Well,
so we need a
I-
certain amount of service. I'm not saying that you're wrong, I'm just saying that that the numbers.
We're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars here out of in terms of just the average for per capita. I'm not going to vote against this tonight, but I am saying that this is the problem with not looking into contracts decade after decade and not really digging into them and looking at things like per unit costs. I think we need to do some more look at it, and it's a long-term project.
Okay, right, and I believe that the contract is the same for all the contract cities. I think what you're getting at, Bill, is the cost accounting per unit and how the charges are being made.
Right, the
Yeah,
cost
and-
effect-
And I think that that's probably available. It used to be done on a fairly regular basis. We should just take a look at it, or the staff should be looking at it. Steve, have you been involved in that at all since you've been manager?
I haven't specifically looked at this contract. I'm pretty familiar with them, both my time here and over in Fillmore.
Right, so I'm sure that like the CEO's office could give you what they do when they review it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just have
Check with them.
one simple question along with what Bill's talking about. At what point does the area that you're actually managing come into effect? So we're, 4.4 miles? And Moore Park is how many miles? And so I understand the population ratios, and I get that. I understand that. But also, if you're looking at per car per area, do we need do we need that many vehicles? Do we need that much service, I guess is what I would be
Right,
saying.
well, that's where it comes to.
So,
That's
and then maybe that's where you look at, and this is, how do you reduce that monetary effect based on?
Well, if I may, you have minimum services. You have 2 patrol cars in the city of Ojai. And there are many calls that we go to that require 2 officers to respond because it's unsafe for 1 to go. So the minimum number, no matter the size of your square mileage, if you're going to have officers respond, there are certain calls you're going to go to that you have to have a minimum of 2. That's why you have 2. Okay. And that's why that's the minimum. Okay. And you're right, and from an economy of scale, to Councilmember Blatt's point, that's why the cost per capita is so much higher for Ojai, because the population is so low. But even with that low population, if you were to look at other contracts or have your own city provided, you are not going to find an officer who's going to want to patrol by themselves and respond to calls by themselves. It's just not going to happen, in my opinion.
I just wanted to bring it to everybody's attention.
You did a good job, thank you.
Scared us there.
And I will tell you that every once in a while, the thought, at least when I first got on the council 7 years ago, there was an undercurrent that we wanted to go back and investigate having our own police force. And I will tell you, every time we looked at it, it was so much more expensive to do that, that if we're at the high end of that, I can't imagine what the per capita cost would be. And we were still going to have to utilize a lot of the services, such as the crime lab that's provided by the sheriff's department anyway, or major crimes. Yeah, those kinds of things we were going to have to avail ourselves of on a pay-as-you-go basis.
Right.
And then you have all the human resource personnel, recruitment, training, and all that goes into it.
Well, I'd like to thank Bill for doing his homework.
Yeah, right, thank you, Bill, I agree. It's a question that needs to be
But
asked.
it's a point well taken, and I think that if it's the council's pleasure at some point in the future, and we wanted to ask the sheriff to, give us some sort of a briefing on it, we could do it.
Okay, do we have a motion? What's our pleasure? What do you need here, Steve?
We need the motion to approve the request for services to the sheriff.
Which includes the level of service and cost
Correct.
for the fiscal year.
Right.
That's correct.
So moved.
Second?
Okay, moved and second. Any further discussion? If not, roll call.
Councilmember Francina?
Yes.
Councilmember Blatz?
Yes.
Mayor Johnston?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Wyrick?
Yes.
Councilmember Haney?
Yes.
I do have one question. What, is there or is there not a contract?
Yes.
There's a contract that dates from 1979, referencing an earlier document from 1977, which no one can find.
With the later amendment in 87, and then again in
There's only
2012.
indemnification.
That rolls over annually.
And so the contract everyone operates under, the majority of the provisions are the 1979 amendment to the 1977 contract, but the Mayor Pro
in
Tem
your
is very
packet.
correct. No one in the city or in the county has been able to find a copy of the 1977 original agreement, despite many, many people pushing
So let's draft a
to
new
find it.
one.
Well, I'm with you there.
Did we
The,
look at our old jail?
Yeah, look at the old
I bet you
jail.
there's some archives down there.
Too
that we
late, the
didn't
rats
know.
have been using
It's
it.
empty.
And the council could consider pushing the sheriff to enter into a new contract. The sheriff is generally reluctant to do anything that resembles a different contract for different cities.
Well, have we checked with the other, is the sheriff getting questions from the other cities? Because, I mean, the TO and
There are some
Camarillo
newer-
are big, you
There are
know.
newer contracts in other cities.
And in LA County has done several new ones, and then just a few,
Santa Barbara, too.
year or two ago, Goleta entered into a new contract
Right.
with Santa Barbara County.
Right, what I'm asking is,
There are no current new contracts
Yeah.
for any of the sheriff's contract cities.
we're all into the same thing.
You're all
That's
current,
correct.
all of our contract cities are currently operating off the 1979 contract, missing the 1977 contract.
Yeah, I will back up that statement as well.
That just
is
simply says
accurate.
we wanted services, and then we order the amount, and they cost it out and say, this is what it costs you for those services.
Right.
You know, it's fine, anybody who wants to spend some time on this.
I know there was an effort at one time to look at renewing the contract, and Thousand Oaks had taken the lead on it.
Correct.
It has not been completed. It's my understanding that the service part of the agreement basically stayed the same. The language that they were looking at had to do more with liability and where that liability places for a lot of different things, including volunteers. Now, Ojai, contrary to most of the other cities, actually has an amendment specifically dealing with liability on volunteers. So
Correct.
Ojai probably has the most current
Right.
of any of the contracts based on that amendment.
And we know where that one is.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, okay, so,
All right, any further direction, or at
We
this
passed
point?
it.
Okay, thank you.
okay, we are,
To the
I
gates.
put these last, I guess they're the last two items on the agenda, and I don't know how much time we want to spend on it, probably very little. But the reason I put it on the agenda is I thought that if tonight was the night for our budget consideration, I didn't know where we were on these things, but it represents close to $250,000 in money, that if we had to make some decisions in order to balance the budget, that it would be available and we'd be able to take action tonight. But since we're not taking action tonight, I would suggest that we just trail it and
Oh, I have a resolution all ready to go on number 9,
But
but,
wait, all these people have been waiting and waiting.
Oh, well, okay, go.
and basically,
Well-
if I could just, I'll offer it,
Yeah,
and it won't involve any money.
no, that's good. I like
Okay?
that.
I have a resolution that make a motion about that involves no money
Any speakers?
on the museum gates.
Oh,
On the museum gates, thank you.
I'm just saying, so I have something to suggest.
I don't see any. Oh, no, pardon me, there
They're
is
here.
a, 7 is, oh, okay, Ryan, I finally, good heavens, where are
Ryan
all
left. We
these?
found you, Ryan.
Okay, we're on 9 and 10, let's see, I don't,
No, I don't.
there's nothing in here on 9, nothing here. Okay, if there's anybody here who wants to talk, it's all right with me. I don't have a card for them.
If you want to do a staff report, that's fine. I have a resolution to offer.
Very simply, I think really the point here is that we have the request from the Ohio Valley Museum. We do have funding right now of $20,000 for the gates, and the request is for an additional $8,000. So we're bringing that to council and asking for some direction to staff.
I'm going to offer a resolution because I think it's inappropriate for the museum to make the request. I think it's a city project, and that we have a mechanism for people that are knowledgeable about how to handle artists. I don't, to work out a contract with the artist. I don't think that just because the artist asks for more money, it should come to, be on the museum to come ask us for more, in order to get their project done, which is not really their project, it's a city project, and then have to come to council. I think we should, I'm going to make a motion, we pass this resolution, which basically says go back to the committee on approved public art. They develop a contract per the stipulations in Chapter 16 of Title 4, and they may not have to come back to us for more money, but they'll know how to do a contract properly. And then if they feel like they need to make some recommendations, they can go to CAPA, to the Arts Commission, and they can pass on the request. And the other point being that we have a public arts fund that has $63,000 in it. So I don't think any general fund should be involved, and I think we should just pass this resolution and send this thing to CAPA to work out a proper relationship with the artist, and the museum, really, it's not appropriate requesting party.
From a legal perspective, it's certainly an interesting proposal. I think would suggest time be provided to review it. As I recall the public art sections of the code, public art money cannot be spent on city-owned land.
It just got used, it got used on the playground.
Then we need to look at that one too.
I'm not sure
I
what
don't
you're
think you're
referring
right.
to.
You just outed somebody, right?
It just got used,
We can certainly use that.
63012, public art fund,
Again?
public
Okay,
art
I could be wrong.
purchase.
Yeah, I would completely agree with the
then
Mayor Pro
I could
Tem.
be wrong.
And that still could be something that recommendations come from CAPA, which is, and the Arts Commission, which are the ones that are supposed to be dealing with public art in the code.
Okay, well, we have a motion. Do we have a
So
second?
my
to that
motion is to adopt this motion.
I'm going to second it. The interesting part of this is that it is confusing to me because what came to us was security gates.
Right.
And then what ultimately it morphed into was public art. And if it truly is public art, then it ought to be handled strictly as a public art project and take its normal course through there, and we stay out of it for the most part. And that's why I support this motion.
Okay. And so my question is, how does a city maintenance and security issue become a public arts project almost exclusively?
Well, because we designated it that at the time of the appropriation. It was designated
Even
as-
though the code didn't require it to be?
It was
we-
designated
it
at the
was-
time to try to create something that wasn't just strictly utilitarian. That's what the council decided, and it's been through now the Historic Preservation Commission, the Arts Commission, and the Committee to Approve Public Art, and I just think we ought to clean up from here on out and pass this resolution. And get her done, as they say.
Mr. Mayor, if I may?
Yes.
Just one thing I'd like to express from the point of the staff would be just to still keep the city manager and the city attorney in the loop in terms of the approval of the final contract.
I think you are in the loop with respect to the Chapter 16 of Title 4.
Just want to make sure that that was going to come up through our office as well.
Chapter 16, Title 4, just follow it from here on out.
Okay.
Okay, but this is an appropriation that was made, what, 2 years ago or a year and a half ago? I guess almost 2 years ago, because we're going through a second funding cycle. And I don't know if this is just folklore at this point, but what I was told was it was the result of the museum having some problems in the courtyard, and I don't know whether it was insurance people or somebody said, you need to have more security on this place, put up some gates, in order, I presume, to protect what's inside the courtyard. And I did say at a previous meeting that I went over there one evening and just pretty much literally stepped over the fence where the air conditioner was. And so it doesn't appear to me there's any way we're going to secure that. So this is not a security project anymore. This is an art project.
I disagree because
Well,
it's-
no, you can disagree. We just, as soon
No,
as
but
I'm
I
done.
mean,
you know.
you're not stating the facts in terms of how you define security perimeters, Mayor.
I
It's
know,
not.
I know. We had this discussion last
Well,
week
you're
because
just
we were
not doing it,
chuckling.
correct? You're not
Well,
saying the
you don't
facts
agree,
correctly.
and that's okay. I don't
Right.
mind you disagreeing. But here's the point. If we are putting gates up to secure the courtyard because we have artwork or monuments or things that might be defaced there, to keep people out, but the very gates that keep them out now become the artwork, making it easier for the vandals to damage the latest improvement. It just seems strange to me.
That's just not factual, Mayor.
It's an opinion, and neither opinions aren't factual. They're just viewpoints. So anyway, I don't disagree with your desire to wrap this up. It just seems very peculiar to me how this has gone on and on for 2 years. Okay.
100-year birthday of Ojai and Edward Libby's famous statement, "Life is art."
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
it is peculiar. But I'm also, and I could be wrong, maybe you can correct me, it seems to me that the whole thing somehow came from a request from the insurance company or something, as I recall. So it was the insurance carrier that said, we need gates.
Right.
Yeah.
And they didn't, I'm sure they didn't specify art. And here we are, I don't know how much we spent at the different commissions.
But the
So-
other thing is that why, after 2 or 3 cycles with not having spent the $20,000 that we appropriated for it, have we carried that forward, or is it just
Yeah,
gone?
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah.
Why don't we just say, if it's going to be public art, it's got to come out of the public art fund, not out of the general fund?
It's coming out of the capital improvement fund.
Right now, it's in the
Oh.
CIP,
Right.
Okay.
Capital Improvement Fund comes from where?
general money.
The general fund.
I'm just saying, that's where it is now.
I mean, it seems as if we're going to treat it as a piece of, if it's going to be public art,
Right.
then take the money out of the public art fund.
And
not
since we're in the
take it
middle
out.
of budget.
Right.
Why don't we just put it in the budget, if that's what the council desires to do? Because, it doesn't seem to me that we should put a hook in this for the next 20 years.
I agree.
And people to come back, because the price will continue to rise, so. Okay, well, any
I
other?
have a question. Why, Mayor Pro Tem Wyrick, do you say that this gate won't be defaced?
I didn't say that.
Oh, what did you
I
say?
said it doesn't increase the risk to public art that's inside the courtyard.
I didn't say it did. I said in itself,
Yeah.
it is art, and it's right there on the street.
And in the testimony before the Historic Preservation Commission and the Arts Commission, there was a fair amount of detailed discussion about how the design, in fact, is meant to be vandal resistant.
Okay, that's what I wanted to hear. The
Okay.
design itself is meant to be vandal resistant.
Yeah, lots of testimony to that effect.
Okay, yeah, well.
So can we bring this back to where we are? So
the we have a resolution
We
on
have a motion on the floor, and
Seconded.
do you want to debate it, or do you want to bring the question?
Let's close it and let's move this along.
And one comment, I did review the public art code, and I was wrong in my initial comment. Public art money can be used on city-owned land.
Yes.
The two strictures are, we can't spend public art money on, quote, functional artwork unless it's commissioned from an artist of note, which would fit in the gates, so that exception doesn't apply. And the money can't be spent on historical rehabilitation or architectural preservation of historic properties. But again, the gates don't fall in that category either.
That category.
So the concerns I had are misplaced.
Yes.
Thank you for the opportunity to clarify.
Right, and I'm also assuming that we've done a structural analysis on where these gates are going to
Well,
go, so it's not going to fall down.
In fact, the way it's designed, it's going to be on its own grade beam because it cannot connect to the rest of the historic landmark structure.
That's correct. They're freestanding, they slot into the arches at issue, but they're freestanding on their own.
On their own grade beam.
Okay. Well, I guess my only question then is, are we going to appropriate $20,000 for it as we have in the past and bring it forward? Or just say it needs to be treated like any other piece of public art and have it come out of the public art fund, even though it's to the benefit of the city? That's my only question now.
Well, I would offer a substitute motion that this be treated as a new request, and we're going to be deciding this in the next 2 weeks, so it might do exactly what Bill is suggesting, but do it by an approval of the budget of what we're doing and define what we're asking them to do, so it doesn't go on forever.
Well, I don't accept the substitute amendment in terms of starting new. I think we need to finish what we've started.
Okay.
Well, I understood that to be substitute motion, not a proposed amendment. If he gets a second, that's voted before your
I
motion.
understand. I think we should pass this, but that's my opinion.
Apparently, there's no
Okay,
second.
well, it dies for lack of a second, so your motion is still there, Bill, okay. If there's no further debate, why don't we read the motion so we know what we're doing here?
Resolution, given that the Museum Gates project is located on city property and paid for with city funds, that could either be the Public Art Fund or operating fund, it doesn't matter. and that approvals have been obtained from both the Historic Preservation Commission, the Arts Commission, and the Committee to Approve Public Art. Council declares the museum gates to be a City of Ojai public art installation. As of this date, in keeping with the provisions of Title IV, Chapter 16 of the Municipal Code, the Committee to Approve Public Art is directed to develop an implementation contract for this project and handle other implementation details listed in Chapter 16. Any additional council action required should be requested by recommendations made by CAPA to the Arts Commission, and if so approved, passed on to the City Council from the Arts Commission.
Okay.
We're good.
Did we hear from, there's no public comments?
No, there wasn't
No
any.
members of the public want to speak? Okay.
Okay. Call the roll.
Is that right?
Councilmember Francina?
Yes.
Councilmember Haney?
Yes.
Mayor Johnston?
I don't know if I can abstain. I probably can, so I will, because I don't quite comprehend all of this, but I appreciate all the work Bill's doing on it. I think you have 4 votes,
I
okay.
want to see the gate done.
Councilmember Blatz?
Yes.
And Mayor Pro Tem Wyrick?
Yes.
Okay, good, done.
I'm still stuck on this thing of the insurance company requiring a gate to insure what's inside, because that should apply to everybody then. I mean,
No,
I don't want to prolong the agony, but it just seems so.
Insurance companies have a risk management division that usually come out to the client and say, if you want to insure this, or if you want to have your premiums controlled, you need to do certain things to protect it, otherwise we don't want to be on the risk. And that's usually when
They
things
had
like
to pay a
gates.
loss on a public art vandalism. The insurance company had to pay a claim.
Yeah, but surely they know that you don't have an electric fence around the museum, but they don't care, huh?
They don't care.
Okay.
Well, it didn't make much difference. We went way beyond the insurance
We're
issue.
done.
We are now into a public arts project, so,
Okay, all right,
okay, great.
okay.
So then the other item is the same thing. It's a budget thing, so I don't know that there's anybody here besides me who had concerns. I've been trying to find exactly
Well, I have the same concern, Mr. Mayor. I'm not sure where this money is budgeted nor where it's coming from.
And
So-
when
so
the original report, I don't know, it said to appropriate it from an unspecified source and to do it for yet-to-be-determined purposes, and
Okay.
that's why
But from what I'm gleaning from Mr. McClary's presentation earlier, I guess you've found the 200,000 and where
The
it's going to...
current fiscal year.
Correct, right.
Okay.
It is budgeted.
and wasn't shown in the sheets that we got for the workshop. Okay, well, so I don't know if there's anything to be done about it. I'm not, it just simply is $200,000 of money that can be used by the city for whatever purposes, including to revise the general plan. And so if the contract hasn't fully been signed, obviously, I think the city manager did enter into a purchase agreement, but until the escrow closes.
That's correct.
The conversation continues, but there could be damages potentially if they could show that they lost value as the market collapsed.
I just want to make a comment, just to take a little bit of issue with you. It's not like money going to a general plan. General plan doesn't get you a fixed asset. We're talking about a liquid asset being put into a land asset. It doesn't decrease the net worth of the city. The net worth of the city stays constant when you use money to buy another asset. And of course, land does not depreciate. So it's not like spending money on a general plan. We are acquiring an asset, if we continue, that will always be part of the city's balance sheet.
If that's what you heard, I misspoke.
Okay.
I did not say it was the same as a general plan. I said it is general fund money that can be used for a
Well, that
variety
is
of
correct.
purposes, which include art gates at the museum and could include revising our much-needed update to our general plan. And so if we're trying to figure out a way to, kind of manage the general fund and get that reserve up for when the recession comes, this is still in play. It's, but,
So I stand corrected.
so,
I still want to
anyway,
continue.
I don't think anything tonight, it's just that it's, unless anybody agrees with me, but I'm just saying it's available as part of the balancing of the budget. And the stuff we got tonight said that the finance office found new money on the revenues, which is a strange way to budget, in my view. I think that when you present
I wish my finances were quite
Yeah, right, yeah, so raise the bridge or lower the river, and then this.
Well,
gets
we
us-
did cut expenditures too.
I know, yeah, you split the difference, but okay, yeah, I understand how it works. But anyway, we've got another week or
So
two.
do we
we'll
need
be-
to adopt a resolution or not?
Or?
There's no need that has to, no action has to be taken.
Okay, good. And we don't
The,
So we're done for?
it was put on at the mayor's request, and
Yeah, I
we'll
just wanted
proceed with the
to
purchase.
have it in play if we were going to adopt a budget tonight, and we're not, so.
Do we have an estimated date on close of escrow, or?
So there was another title issue that arose that actually got resolved this afternoon with a fair amount of time on the phone. That's now resolved as of about 2 hours, well, before the meeting started. So tomorrow I'll tell the title company that the direction is to go forward. I did warn the property owner that this was on the agenda tonight so that he wouldn't be blindsided. The direction is to go forward, so I expect we'll get this closed fairly soon.
Well,
But I'll knock wood on that.
I'll make a motion, which I don't know that I'll get a second to. I move that we direct staff not to proceed right now until the budget's adopted. Deafening. Okay, thank you. Very good. So we've gotten through item 10, and do we have a closed session on tonight, or are we?
Yes, we do.
Closed sessions, okay. Does the city attorney want to announce anything, or?
I'll briefly, thank you. The council will be meeting in closed session to consider two items. One, the city manager's performance evaluation, and two, under Government Code Section 54957, and two, to convene with the labor negotiator for all unrepresented employees. The city's negotiator is also the city manager, and that's under Government Code Section 54957.6.
Yep.
I do not expect any reporting out.
Point of order, aren't city council members' reports before the closed session?
Yeah, we are. He's just
Okay.
telling with that.
I'm sorry.
No, you were right. I asked you, but before we go into that, let's wrap up. We've got council member reports, city manager report, and future agenda items. So let's go with council member reports. Bill?
I have three announcements. One is that I want to make clear for the record to my colleagues and to the public that the council received a letter addressed to us from the Ojai Valley Sanitary District Board
Yes.
relative to our actions with respect to not requiring will serve on permitting. I want to say for the record, I have discovered that this letter and the words in that letter were never on the agenda of a Ojai Valley Sanitary District Board meeting. In other words, the letter that was conveyed to us as from the board is not on the result of any action by the elected officials that constitute the board. And I suggest that the response is simply to ask for the board meeting that generated the letter, because I find that disturbing. Just a comment. That's my first announcement. My second announcement is that I was very happy with Mr. Summers' research on weed abatement, where we found out that we can deal by state law with weed abatement right now without any additional legislative action. And we also have an administrative code that we can use for weeds. The state law allows us to go in and fix the problem. The administrative code allows us to do citations, but we apparently require no legislative action in order to handle things like the situation that we see along Main Street, where we have obvious fire hazards and lack of weed abatement.
And one clarification on that, the no legislative action means no need to amend the code.
Right.
The state law approach does require the council to adopt a resolution declaring a public nuisance, and if not fixed, a resolution imposing liens to pay for the cost to repair it.
But it's a procedural matter.
Exactly.
Which staff could engage in at this time without any additional legislative action, except bringing those procedural steps to us.
And I had discussions with the building official this morning on moving those forward.
Thank you. I just want to, that's a good news.
And I support moving that forward as well. We're working on addressing this.
So that's my second point. And my third point is that Dale is helping with this. We're going to just have not anything sanctioned by the city, nothing, but as an individual council person, I'm going to participate. I think that Councilperson Francina may also participate. Everybody else is welcome to participate. We have reserved June 25th at the Ojai Arts Center. We're going to be publicizing this at 4 p.m., believe, Dale? and it is going to be just a visioning discussion meeting of the Chaparral School property and what the concepts and vision might be for the best use of that public property into the future for the community's benefit. It's a brainstorming session that we are trying to organize for June 25th at 4 p.m. at the Ojai Arts Center. That's my announcements.
Paul?
With regard to that meeting, what is going to be, we've already been told that we need to go to this, if the city wants to participate in any discussions, we have to go to them with a proposal. We have no idea what they want in terms of money. We have no idea what remediation might be on the property. So what is the ultimate purpose of this meeting that you're planning on having?
It's a visioning meeting for all of the public purposes that could be served. And a lot of people, a lot of very talented people are interested in participating from all kinds of ideas like business incubator, jobs incubation centers, to performing arts, to affordable housing, to implementing some of the, for example, a new state law that specifically targets use of surplus school property for staff and teacher housing. Mm-hmm. All kinds of ideas, and it just, I can't tell you the outcome. But I think that a lot of people have a lot of ideas, and I want to help be part of a group of people trying to bring all those people that have ideas together and see what happens. That's it.
Is this in conjunction with the school, or is this?
The school's invited.
Right. Okay. So.
But the point is that it's just it's a visioning exercise, a community visioning exercise that has no official status whatsoever.
Is this in the coming Friday's paper?
I don't know if it is or not. Probably not, but we're going to have to get going
Yeah,
on
we
publicity.
better submit tomorrow because it's the 15th tomorrow.
Then I will.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Just an announcement.
Okay. Paul, you got?
No.
Susan?
Well, I did attend the Ventura County Animal Services quarterly meeting, and I'm actually not prepared to report on all the great things they're doing, but I will do that next meeting. I just want to say that I almost flaked out because, you know, I had fallen off a chair and sprained my ankle, and that was my 5th meeting that week, and I was thinking of reasons why I didn't need to go. And I'm so glad I went, because when I got there, the director, Tara Diller, she had fallen off the curb and she broke 3 toes and sprained her ankle. I mean, she tore a ligament. She was in.
This is why you were glad you went?
No, well, because if she could be there.
Oh, I see.
With her leg in a giant boot, I would have felt ashamed. Plus, they didn't have.
Wimped out, yeah.
It would have been noticed because they didn't have a quorum. And so I was glad I made the effort, because it was one of the best, most educational meetings I ever went to. Steve Bennett directs the meetings, and I'm going to try to give a presentation, you know, maybe next council, a short presentation of what I learned. But they are doing just a fabulous, fabulous job at our Ventura County no-kill shelter. It's excellent, excellent work.
Okay.
So-
Randy?
It's no-kill countywide.
No-kill
I don't have
countywide,
anything.
yeah.
Okay, I guess that, Dale, did I call you Don earlier? Yeah, I just suddenly I thought, where am I? Yet again, another disappointment this week. I'm sorry, my apologies. Okay. I did attend the district attorney's conference on cannabis, and I don't know, after you listen to those people, at a certain point you think, you know, we're lost. You know, as far as the confusion from the state on down as to nobody really figuring out what to do, particularly like with outdoor grow, which is something that we have some citizens in our town that are a little concerned about, and I'm not sure how. I went to it to just see if there's a way to accommodate what we're trying to do for medicinal purposes without the other. Didn't come away with any great answers, but it was informative, as they say. I also attended the Board of Supervisors this morning and testified on behalf of the county adopted a resolution for the Paris Agreement saying that, and I didn't represent myself as anything other than me, but my comment was, is this a nonpartisan issue where we are, I think we need to affirm our belief in education, our belief in science, and our part in the contribution to this worldwide, since all the other countries are doing it. Anyway, the board passed it on a 3 votes, 1 abstention, 1 no, and you can probably guess how that went. But anyway, it was the first effort on the part of counties, and I've also joined Mayor Garcetti and others on the 100% clean energy effort that saying that we all should be trying to set that as a goal. You know, it's an aspiration and it'll be difficult to achieve, but we got to start. So anyway, that city manager's report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I also attended the district attorney's training on understanding legal marijuana. It was a lot easier to understand when it was all illegal. Yes, it's a very complicated issue. And as you know, we've been wrestling with that complicated issue here. We are in the process of working on the background checks and making the final decisions on the issuance of a license or licenses here. So we expect that in the next couple of weeks. Also wanted to report that we are making some concerted effort to reach out to the merchants in terms of legal signs, particularly signs that are in the public right-of-way. And we've had a very positive response from the merchants. We've contacted over 40 merchants to date, and I think we received pretty much immediate compliance with all but a couple of merchants, and so a very good response. We did have a little bit of feedback, and we're working with those merchants to answer their questions and trying to really get the word out and the education out to understand what's permitted and what's not. Again, we're not going out there with the ticket book at this point, and we're not looking to try to necessarily write citations. We're leaving that as a last resort if we've made multiple contacts and they're still not complying. So far, I think the effort has been working very well.
A question about that? Will this be on a future agenda? I mean, the whole sign ordinance?
So the sign ordinance is coming back to the city council.
Yeah.
And I think we had a date tentative for that. If you can excuse me. I believe that's scheduled to come to the city council on July 25th.
Yes,
Once
and
it gets through planning commission.
It'll be heard by the planning commission. It was noticed for the 21st, the meeting a week from tomorrow. I expect that the commission will continue that hearing to their meeting on July 5th. And then, of course, it'll be available ahead of the packet, the current draft, which is also on the planning commission's website. We'll have a revised draft out ahead of the next meeting. And we can circulate that to the council directly as well.
Okay, did you say that the redraft of that is on the website?
The draft, yes, the proposed amendments to the sign ordinance are on the city's website, and we'll send copies direct to the council. And then the draft that's on the website now will be amended based on the commission's direction at their meeting on June 7th to reflect their direction then. And then there'll be a further draft ahead of the meeting on June 21st.
And did you say July?
For the city council, July 25th is when it's scheduled to come back to city council.
Okay, good. Okay.
Do you know off the top of your head the last time this was looked at?
I don't.
It's been a while. I believe there were tweaks done in 2015, but the majority of the ordinance has been in place for a long time.
Yeah. I think Mayor Johnson said the sandwich boards go back to the 1970s.
No, it'll be possibly even earlier. It was at least in 71, it was already in place, so it's probably in the late 60s.
I was just say, that one I believe is at least late
Yeah.
60s, if not earlier.
Neon signs and sandwich boards are out.
Late 60s, at least.
Late 60s. Yeah, I'm glad we're going to look at it again. Great.
I want to thank the staff for the work you did on that. You can't please everybody. Susan and I both got a note, maybe the other council member got it, from somebody who was concerned and said that the enforcement officer could not have been nicer, was a very sweet person, or some language to that. And then another person got me and said, they were very mean, and I checked to see who it was. Same guy, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. No, it was Axel, and I think he does a very nice job, and that's a hard thing to do. people don't understand, so you have to
Agree.
educate them. But I think
Yeah.
that it's coming along well.
We did do a little bit of good feedback that we passed along to the code enforcement officer, which was, try to be sensitive about approaching the business owners in front of customers and that type of thing. And of course, the response was a lot of them wanted to have the discussion right there at the counter so they could watch who was in their store and be able to run over and help. So it's just a lot of it's just being conscious of the individual.
Randy, did you have a?
I just had
Thanks.
do you know what's on next council's agenda?
Yes, I was going to go through that list
Great. I
next,
just wanted to
council
see
member.
If it's as packed as this one was.
Yeah, well, yeah, but we're still running okay, yeah.
It only feels like 11:15 because we started
Started
an
at
hour
6,
early.
yeah, go Steve.
Okay, for June 27th, besides the usual fare, minutes, warrants, and all that, we have adoption of the street overlay plan and specifications. Council wanted to see that come back before it went out. A solid waste consultant contract, multi-hazard mitigation plan, bringing that back, request of council. We realized that we didn't have a term limit set for the budget committee citizen member, so we're proposing a 4-year term limit on that. We owe the grand jury a response. We'll bring that forward on consent calendar. We have a public hearing for the second unit ordinance. This would be for a introduction and first reading. And then for discussion, trolley fare and service modifications. That is a timely matter that we are asking the council to consider sooner rather than later. Complete Streets Master Plan adoption, that may be a bit much to go for on the 27th. That is going to the Planning Commission. I believe it went to the Planning Commission. Thank you. It was approved by the Planning Commission. We are due back to come back with the information on the building and the planning contracts. I also have some information that I can pass out tonight that was requested. Another timely one is the leaf blower enforcement discussion. And then I don't think we would have time to get to the Sarzati Park Master Plan, but we would be ready to go with that if council wanted to see that back on the 27th. And then, of course, the budget needs to come back along with all the revisions with the, which we normally do, the update to the employee handbook, the employee compensation, and we are working on some revisions to the comp and overtime policy as well.
And just to
Just a few
pile on
things.
absurdly,
Sure, why not?
we were going to also get those landmarking motions, the
Yes.
landmarking recommendations to
Yes,
us
sir.
in June.
We,
Let's just be absurd about it and throw that one on, but yeah. Obviously, you can't do all that in one night. That was going to come back in June, the historic landmark recommendations.
Well, I didn't remember a date specific on
Well, it was
that,
going
I'm
to be in
sorry.
June, this is the last meeting in June.
So why I asked that is do we want to start the budget process instead of at 6, maybe earlier, so we can get it wrapped up for the 27th?
Yeah, if we don't meet before then we should probably maybe start at 5, yeah.
You want to do a budget workshop at 5?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. The reality of, you want to adopt your budget by the end of the current fiscal year, going into the next, usually they say
Right.
June 30th.
Right.
But there were many years that most jurisdictions, because of the state of California, didn't adopt their budget, that this thing dragged on into September. So, while we should try to get it done by then, there are mechanisms, for example, to extend the existing budget and do the October revise if it becomes necessary. So we should do the best we can between now and, but
Absolutely.
not have, Rudy having to work weekends or, that sort of thing to get there. I think it's
Some of that's under Rudy's control, but I agree
Okay,
with
yeah,
you.
it's desirable, but it's not necessary. I don't want to see everybody being burnt out. on
Certainly
this
not.
thing, so, okay.
Just as a disclosure, that day, I probably would not be able to be here till 6. So you can begin without me. I can't, I'm in court until 5.
Okay. We could,
We might be able to get through it in an hour. I know that might be a little
Yeah.
overly optimistic, but
I could probably be here, 5:30 or so.
And you wouldn't be adopting it?
But,
well, why don't
pro
we
tem
could
judge that
start
day
it when
and
you
then-
arrive. We could shoot for 5:30. And in the meantime, if any of us
5:30?
have questions, we ought to go in and see Steve and Rudy so that we don't do it all. And it's pretty hard to follow this stuff.
yeah, and we have a lot of questions and some materials here, which I will get to you. I'll give it to you before you go tonight, but it answers a lot of the questions that have been posed in the last week and before.
Okay. Anything else? Then do we adjourn to the closed session, and then we'll, if come back out and close the meeting?
Correct.
You don't expect to report anything out?
I do not expect any reports
Okay.
out from the closed session.
Okay, we are adjourned to closed session.
In the microphone. There's no report out. The council met in closed session to consider city manager evaluation and labor negotiations regarding all unrepresented employees. No reportable action taken.
Okay, meeting's adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.